Good evening to everybody, and welcome to the RAF Scampton live debate. Sorry about that. Anyway, moving swiftly on from that, the first thing I'm going to say to everybody tonight is that this, as you can see by the banner, the channel is for 18 plus only. All views are the person's own responsibility and by no means is endorsed by this channel. But please be respectful of other people's opinions and beliefs. That's the only thing I ask while this debate goes on. So anyway, as you can see in chat, I've put a link in for the StreamYard panel. So if anybody would like to come up on the panel and speak with us, then you're very welcome to. Let's see who we've got. Good evening, UK. It's very good to see you here. Thank you for turning up. I like that. That's brilliant. Right. I'm not very good on these debates. It's better when you've got somebody else to talk to while you're at it. So, UK, if you wish to come up on the panel, please feel free. It'd be good to have you up on here. So, we have, how many in? We have 3. Oh, right, okay, that's great. Well, thank you to those 3 that are here. I'm pleased that you've took the time out to come and speak with us. So anyway, the point of the debate is to get other people's opinions on what's happening there. It would be nice if we had people from the actual camp that will come up and speak, tell us how they feel about what's meant to be happening up there and stuff like that. Maybe what's been happening this last week, if there's any changes or they've seen anything more than what's been happening, should I say. That would be fantastic. It just keeps us all fully informed on what's happening up there. So anyway, as I say, it's great to see everybody here that are here. So who do we have? Oh, good evening, Doghouse. I hope you're okay, mate. Nice to have you here. As I say to people, the link is there, the StreamYard link is there for you to come up on the panel, so it would be good if you would. Hello, Mike. It's really good to have you here, mate. Hey, mate, this is, if you're going to stream this to all the people that you know, I would really appreciate that if you could. The more we get in, the better. And yes, of course, you're one of the people that I'd really love to have up on the panel. That'd be fantastic. So, yes, brilliant. It's good if we can get quite a few. I mean, I've advertised this on different groups on Facebook, so hopefully some of those people will turn up as well. I just really want to get a good debate going. Excuse me. I'd like to hear the views of everybody, not just one side, not just the other side, but everybody. But as I say, please be respectful for other people's opinions and beliefs. So anyway, as it stands at the moment, I have to say that I will show this at the moment. We have just one moment, please. I'm just going to, here we go. So this that you can see on screen is the Lincolnshire Live website, and it shows the different stories that have been taking place over the last few weeks. So this one, for instance, the Home Office says the asylum seekers at RAF Scampton will now come from the detention centre and not hotels. Now, the thing with this is that it was said right from the start that they would be coming from hotels, emptying hotels and everything. And all of a sudden, it's been said that they're going to come from the detention centre instead. I believe this is because the number of people that are actually turning up now, and it would appear that they are getting huge numbers in the detention centres. So it was changed to this now. As I say. So, not only are these sites more affordable for the taxpayer, but they're also more manageable for the communities due to healthcare and catering facilities on site, 24/7 security, and the purpose-built, safe and secure accommodation they provide. Well, that's a joke in itself, but that's only my opinion. But we will see. We will see. So, does anybody actually have any opinions themselves? If you have, please put them in chat or come up on the panel. The more we get, the better. Well, UK, it doesn't matter if you can't add anything to the subject, mate. Just coming on and talking and giving your opinion is a good thing. See what you say. It's good when we can expand on that. At the end of the day, that would be good. It's just, like I say, it just brings about more awareness to people that may not be. How can I say this? That may not be aware of what's happening there at the moment. Although I know it's a very big story, there's still a lot of people out there that's not aware of what's going on. So, as I say, it would be good if people could come up. How many have we got? The more debate we can get, the better. So anyway, yeah. So as it stands, right. Let's move on. As it stands at the moment, we've actually yeah. So as it stands, from what I've heard, I was over there the other day, as people may be aware. And I did actually, or myself and my partner, Wolf Lover, did actually notice that they were doing a lot of measuring up on the ASPs. For those that don't know what ASPs are, they're the air servicing platforms, which is where they park the aircraft. They're doing quite a bit of measuring up on them. There's a company in there doing that at this time. So that's interesting stuff. Good evening, Wenda Cox. Welcome. Nice to have you here. If you do have any comments to make, please feel free to put them either in chat, or there is a link further up which will bring you onto a panel that will allow you to speak on here with the rest of us. That would be good. I'm not sure if you yourself have much to do with Scampton, but I'm not sure whether you know much about what's happening at Scampton. The former RAF Scampton is going to be turned into an asylum seekers migrants centre. 2,000 are going there, and it's been opposed obviously by the people that live on the camp, some of which are personnel and many of which are actually civilian people that have bought houses up there. So, it's not the place for all these people to be. Over 2,000 of them are meant to be going there. So if you have any opinions on that, please express them. I have a son in RAF based at Coningsby. Oh, lovely. Coningsby is a fantastic place. Love it. We're down there all the time, actually. All the time. So, yeah, so you have a vested interest in this. So if you feel like coming up onto the panel, please feel free. You're welcome to. But as I was saying, just going back to what I was saying, we've been looking at, we've been seeing some measuring up done. I think it was mainly for utilities and stuff on the ASPs. It's right. Yes, aware of what's going on. It's terrible and what's happening at Scampton. Terrible, sad. What's happening? Terribly sad. What's happening at Scampton? Absolutely, Wenda. Absolutely. So, as I say, going back to we saw that they were measuring up on the ASPs. I think it's the utilities and stuff like that, which would say to me that they were maybe, if they're looking at utilities and stuff as such like that, then would that mean that they'd be digging holes in the ASPs? Not only that, but with the amount of people that's going to be there, would the utilities be able to cope, like sewage? Would it be able to cope with the amount of people? That's another question that hasn't been asked, really. It's quite it's interesting. It's an interesting thought. Absolutely. So, anyway, yes. Are you still with us, Doghouse? If you'd like to come up on the panel, mate, you're welcome to. Let's get a debate going. It's very difficult to try and get a debate going when you're talking to yourself. So please come up on the panel and speak with us. We do our best. Yeah. So anyway, I haven't got any new. I mean, that one was these stories, as I was saying. The results I've got at the moment doesn't tell us much about. I mean, we can also speak about the District Council's High Court challenge to RAF Scampton's plans to get underway, but there's also the Dan Buster's dog borrowed at Scampton could be exhumed and moved elsewhere. We could speak about that as well. I mean, there's plenty to speak about. Absolutely. Good evening, AY. Thank you for turning up. It's great to see you. Again, as I've said to everybody, please be respectful of other people's opinions and beliefs. Also, if you have anything to add to anything, just further up, there is a link that will allow you to come onto the panel onto here and say what comments you might have. If you have any comments, it would be good to have somebody else up here to talk to. As I say, do you AY? Do you have anything to do with Scampton itself? Are you living there, or are you just somebody that's just come up to have a listen? It would be good to know. Also, like I say, good to have you here. So anyway, yeah. I mean, good evening. By the way, I am Alec. Hello, Alec. Oh, it's good to see you. Yes, yeah. I know. Well, we've met Alec. Up at Scampton. I've met you, so that's good. As I say, this debate, once we get a few more in, this debate, we're going to respect everybody's views and beliefs, everybody. There's going to be no arguments or anything else like that. Everybody will get a fair say on what their views and stuff are like that. I mean, I think that's very important. This is specifically about Scampton itself, not about the wider impact. I mean, we could do the wider impact of what these people coming over do at a later date. Well, this one is specifically about Scampton. So, if we can keep it to that, it would be appreciated. just waiting for a very nice gentleman that I've met just recently called Mike to come up on the panel. That'll be interesting. But anyway, it's great to have you all here, and thank you for taking the time out to come and talk with us, everybody. Fair enough, otherwise it'll go off on a tangent. Yeah, there's going to be no tangents tonight. It's going to be specifically on what I've said so far. That's fair enough. Let's just take that down. Pointless having that on. So, Alec, if you feel like that you would like to come up onto the panel and speak with us, there's a link. Doghouse, could you put the link into the chat again, please? The link is a StreamYard link that allows you to come up and talk to us on a panel on here. Good evening, Sarah. The link is just about to be posted, so if you'd like to come up on the panel and give us any new information that's happening, great to have you here again. That'll be good. I don't know whether to call you Sarah, Dave, or Trevor. I mean, it's entirely up to yourself, of course. Just a little bit of humour there from last time. Fair comment to guess Scampton is just the start of what's to come. Yes, yeah, I agree, Wenda. I really do agree with you there. It is. I mean, sort of like I've been watching a lot that's been going on lately about how many have come over just recently on the boats, and I mean, just in 2 days, over 1,000. I mean, wow. I mean, when you get in sort of like every couple of days, another 1,000 coming in, the numbers themselves, it's just wow. It just seems to be so many. And going back to what this is about, when you look at those numbers and the numbers that are going to be housed at Scampton, it's just how can you facilitate all that? How can you have so many in one place like that? I mean, it's just too much, especially when. Yes, of course, AY. That's no problem. I appreciate that. That's fine. But just going back to what I was saying, sort of like, the general makeup, as most people know now, we've spoken about it at length, that we have so many people, or Scampton itself, because of lack of facilities and stuff that's there, and how they're going to fit them in and everything else like that. It's difficult. It really will be difficult, I'm just going to add in our friend Sarah, aka Trevor. Well, I think Dave is better. Good evening, Sarah, and welcome to the panel, and also welcome Alec to the panel. It's good to have you here.
Well, like I said, I mainly just want to listen. I've met a lot of you, and people know my views on it and the wider issues. But I just want to listen to other people's take on things, really, for the most part.
That's fair enough. That's not a problem. I mean, at the end of the day, your views are valid as well as everybody else's. While you're on my panel, your views are valid as well as anybody else's. We're not going to have any of this. You said, this said, that said, or anything else like that. No, it's a debate, a proper adult debate, and this is all we have on this channel. So thank you. Can I say thank you to you both for taking the time out to come and speak with us? I really appreciate that. For those that don't know, Sarah actually lives on camp. Alec is a how can I put you? I'm not going to say activist because that'd be a wrong thing to say. But what I will say is that Alec cares, like the rest of us, about what happens at Scampton, and with Alec, it's the wider area of this country that he cares about. And what?
Well, yeah, like I think that's probably a fair way of describing it. I'm sort of campaigning against not just this, but against other issues as well. It's more political, but it's on a national scale. But That's I think a fair way of putting it.
I do my best.
Don't worry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. I was going to say, don't worry, Alec. I don't normally let anyone else get a word in edgeways, so you've got no problems there.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. That was so funny that night. That really was. But anyway, so Sarah, let's come to you first. Has there been any movement this last week on the place? Has there been much going on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, there's still contractors going on and off and doing surveys and bits and pieces. There's movement every day. So I know that the water company's been on board. I think they're trying to look at how they can sort of get the water supply up to spec, because it's obviously not built on, the infrastructure's not built for 2,000 people. So the more that they can get coming through the mains, the less lorries they've got to bring on to camp with water. So because talking to someone from the water company, they're not allowed, back in the olden days when I was a wee nipper, if you had like problems with the water supply, a great big tanker would come up and park at the end of the road, and you take like your containers and go and fill them up. Well, they can't do that anymore. It's literally sort of these big plastic containers that they deliver full of water, and they're only allowed to be left out for like 12 hours or something. So to keep a regular supply of fresh water coming, it will just mean a constant stream of lorries in delivering these containers.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, the supply to Scampton is not the best at the best of times, is it?
No.
I mean, is it the case, as I understand it, the majority of the planned accommodation is not in the pre-existing sort of accommodation blocks, but is actually in like sort of rows and rows of, pop-up container cabin type things?
Yeah, so the first 200 are due to go into the former
the block,
accommodation blocks. Yeah, so you've got the 2H blocks, a T block, and the junior ranks mess that they're intending to use. So I'm assuming the junior ranks mess is for sort of canteen and medical and offices and stuff like that. And then I'm not sure about the T block, but yeah, the 2H blocks for accommodation. Then the rest in modular porter cabins, as they've called them. But yeah, we just call them shipping containers because it's easier. But we've been told that there's 8 to a building, so approximately 220 of these units need to be sort of parked up somewhere.
I believe that they're going to be put on the ASPs. Like I said, for those that don't know, they're the aircraft servicing platforms, which is where they used to park the aircraft, and there's plenty of those around. I do not believe for 1 minute they're going to put them onto the runway. If anybody would like to tell me anything different, then please feel free.
No, not onto the runway, because it would cause too much damage, but also it's exposed to all the elements and everything. So they want to keep them sort of fairly concentrated, which means they're going to put them on like the old RAF area, but that's not big enough for 220 containers. And I've been told they won't stack them because it's a hanging risk, because too many people try to commit suicide from them. So they have to be ground level.
So therefore, I'm just going to put something else on the screen for people to see and point it out. So just 1 moment, please. That's the wrong one. Just bear with me a moment, please, everybody. Let's just minimize that. Get rid of that. Right. Okay. Gosh, I do apologise. Here we go. Right, so share that. Window.
In regards to how many people have come over, Let me just get my.
As you're finding that, Sarah, I'm just going to add that this is the old red arrows pan here where you see my cursor moving. This is where Sarah has been talking about where they're going to put 230 of them. Now,
I see.
Yeah, it is my belief that they're going to fill this up as well here. There's plenty of space for a lot more on there. Failing that, if that gets filled up, there's also this one here. Coming to the other end, there's these ones here, 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 and here. So there is plenty of space to put as many as they can.
I mean, I would be inclined to think that, yeah, as you're saying, they'll start with the ones closest to the block simply because it will be easier for the gas, the electric, the plumbing, whatever it is. Well, it won't be gas; it'll probably just be electric and any plumbing or water supplies, whatever. I think you're probably right as well that the runway won't be used. The reason being that there's probably some sort of legislation or some sort of issue to do with the fact that they'll have to leave the runway vacant because aircraft might end up having to use it, even if it's for like emergency purposes. So I think you're right. I'd be very surprised if the runway itself gets used. It will just be like the hard standing areas.
Well, let me just add, just before I bring Mike on, I'm going to say this, that in 2000, I've said this before, and I'll say it for your benefit, Alec, that in 2096, or 2096, I mean 1996, when they closed Scampton, each end of the runway, they put up chain link fences. They took them down in 2000 when they reopened the base and put in wooden post and rail fencing. Now, because they've closed Scampton now, they've actually left the wooden post and rail fencing in. So that tells me to somewhat that I believe, and this is only a personal opinion, that they're going to be using that runway for something. That is what I believe. That they're going to use it for in some way or another. And while I'm just at it, I'm just going to bring Mike on as well. Good evening to you, Michael. Mike, and welcome.
Hey, folks.
Have you here, mate? Are you restreaming this to your?
Well, my channel was taken down, mate. I can't do it. And I've only started this Mike West one up, which I've always done in the background. I've got no sort of. I've done no live streams from this channel, so yeah, mine was taken down last year, mate.
Okay, mate. Fair enough. Well,
sorry, sir.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, while I've got it open on my screen, just a quick update. Between the 11th of June and the 17th of June, migrants detected was 2,375. So that's 17, 20, 24, 30, about 55 boats that were detected, 2,375 migrants detected. So that doesn't tell us the ones that weren't detected.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I've got the figures for this weekend. There was 1,032 migrants in 20 boats brought into Dover in the last 3 days. 173 on the 15th, 486 on the 16th, and 374 on the 17th. Now, one thing that bewilders me is the government seems to be handling this by, taking down these or using these derelict bases or closed bases. Now they're discussing using barges as well up and down the country. Well, just look at the figures, right? So on average weekend, we've got 1,500 to 2,000 coming just in the weekend period. These barges that they're having converted from, I think the maximum they took was 230. They're upping that to 500. How many barges?
Yeah, 506.
Yeah. So how many barges are we going to have as well, dotted up and down the country, as well as them housed on military bases? This is worrying. And, I've always called this an invasion anyway. But the worrying thing to me is it seems that our establishment are aid and abetting this. They're doing nothing to prevent it. In France, they make them sleep in tents. If you look at the Calais camps and you look at the one Dunkirk, they're in, and no one complains. You don't get all these soy people going, "Oh, look, they're just put up in tents. Oh, isn't it terrible?" No one moans about that, but they're moaning about, us not accommodating these in a fit way. If I had my way, if they were forced to come here, why aren't we doing the same? Why do we have to go to these lengths where they've got doctors on tap? Well, I haven't even got that here, and I'm a tax-paying person. Why are they getting this special treatment? It's just frustrating. It really is.
Absolutely.
And that's normally the response you get.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think anybody understands why, really. But it's exactly when you see the numbers that are coming over, and Scampton would be full, and sort of nearly 400 people still needing accommodation. That's in a week. So when you think that the Home Office sent civil servants here back in February to have a look at the place, and they said no, then we're now in June, and they're looking at putting people in August. If it's taken them that long to acquire accommodation for the amount of people that are coming over weekly, then I'm not sure where are they putting these people in the meantime, because Manston can't hold. No. Well, it's supposed to hold 1,600. They had it up to 4,000 something last year. But yeah, that's exactly. So where are they putting those in the meantime, whilst they're waiting for Scampton and Wethersfield and North Eye and Bexhill and everywhere else to be done?
I mean, this is to be honest, this is part of the reason why I'm more and more sort of going out of my way to target the problem at the source, and it's because, for example, exactly what you were saying. So I don't know if any of you have heard about it, but there's been a campaign going on similar to this one in a place called Erskine in Scotland for about 4 months. It's 4 to 5 months. Every weekend there's been demonstrations, protests, whatever. It's been going on for months. And it's because they said there's a hotel with 200 people in it. Now, let's imagine that tomorrow that succeeds and those 200 people get moved out of that hotel. Well, in the 5 months it's taken to accomplish that, how many others have come in? So it's a situation where even if you win, overall, you're still actually worse off than when you started. And that's sort of partly why I sort of think about the problem at the source. But as you're saying, places like these RAF bases, I mean, I put it this way: if Scampton doesn't get used, you know that there will be somewhere else in the vicinity of Lincoln. There'll be somewhere else that's being eyed up. I mean, for example, when Linton-on-Ouse had this, the moment that fell through, as soon as it was decided Linton-on-Ouse would not be used, and that was supposed to house around about 1,000, single men. Fast forward a month or two from Linton-on-Ouse being scrapped, Cottingham in Hull, it was then immediately announced, there's going to be an accommodation block for 1,000 single men. And as soon as Cottingham in Hull was scrapped, and that was in January, lo and behold, a month later, it's Scampton will now be accommodated, and it's the same people. It's when one place fails, we'll try the next place. There's not much doubt in my mind that Hull was the backup for Linton. Scampton is the backup plan for Hull. This whole idea of Skegness moves them from Skegness to Scampton. Well, that I was suspicious of anyway, but they've now admitted, well, that's not going to get rid of it in Skegness. It'll just be in both places. But there's always got to sort of be an awareness of, well, if you can get Scampton canned, you sort of have to keep in the back of your mind where the next place might be. I mean, I know Lincolnshire is a hotbed of old RAF bases, a lot of which are either rarely used, barely used, or sort of in the process of being closed down, for various reasons. I mean, there's the one at Binbrook or Brookenby, one of the two. There's the one at Waddingham, and it's something I think is always got to be in the back of your mind.
It's a game of whack-a-mole.
Yeah,
The
Yeah,
one at Waddingham.
Well, I used to be on the ground radio unit at Binbrook, and I'm glad to see now it's an industrial estate, so they can't put these guys up there. Yeah, it's sickening to see. It's an insult. Certainly with Scampton, it's an insult to Bomber Command, the legacy that place has got, and it's like they're rubbing it in our faces. You know, and I've got strong views on this, and I'm trying to tone it down on it, Nicholas. But yeah, I think this has got to be beyond a local level. I think these activist groups have got to get together, and they've got to start accusing people like the Home Office, people that are making these plans, and the private companies, these quangos that are called in to help out with this. We've got to call them out. We've got to call them. They're traitors. What they're doing, you know, it's a threat to our national security. What they're doing. We've got people coming in with no ID, no paperwork. The criminal element is being shown on display within our media on a weekly basis. They've put us, the public that are paying the taxes, at a high risk, and they go on about terrorism. They go on about being at whatever terrorism alert are on, but all they seem to be doing is encouraging it by letting these people in. It's madness, and I think we've got to start, waking up and attacking central government and saying, this is what you're aid and betting this. This isn't normal. This isn't, men, grown fighting age men coming over in the boatloads, ditching their IDs in France or in the English Channel. To me, that is not normal. And I think, and this is what the government are happy with, that it's localized at the moment. We should be calling them out. And I know it's tough because mainstream media won't do it. But there's got to be some sort of strategy brought up to bring this to a national level.
I mean, I totally agree with the going after the government approach. And I say that fully aware of the fact that, a huge amount of the people that sort of follow me or that I represent, and, including me, are very, very anti-immigration in general. There's very various reasons for it. However, I do recognise the fact that there is more viability in going after the government on the issue for facilitating it. And I recognise that because, there are lots of people who aren't necessarily as anti-immigration as myself, but still don't want this. And yeah. I very much take the view that, yes, the open door is a problem and the endless people coming through it is a problem. However, the problem is the person that's opening that door in the first place when nobody wants it to be open. And so I definitely agree that it's kind of got to be sort of pushed as, yes, the open borders, the asylum system, the way this is handled. Yes, it's a problem. However, the responsibility for that problem is very much in Westminster. That, in my opinion, is the cause of it. And I think targeting, targeting whether it's the refugees, economic migrants, whatever you call them, I very much see them as pawns on a chessboard. Yes, it's still a problem, but them targeting them alone is not going to help. It's not going to do any serious, damage to what is ultimately the enemy causing it. And so, I completely agree that, it's got to sort of be. It's got to always be sort of pushed and put in people's minds, and it's got to be shown to people that, yes, even though at face value the asylum seekers being there is the problem, the actual cause of that problem is 200 miles away in London.
Yeah. This is it. I mean, if you leave sugar out and you attract the ants, you can't blame the ants for coming to the sugar. It's whoever left the sugar out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The ants are still a menace, but it's still whoever's left it out.
Yeah. You can't blame the ants for just doing what they what they want to do. But yeah.
Can I just take a second or two just to welcome Crazy Lady Jane and Wenda to
Lady Jane.
Yes, to the chat. Very nice of you to come in and say hello. and to add your thoughts on it. If you wish to come up on the panel, please feel free. The link is there somewhere in chat. So, yeah, it's there anyway. So if you feel like coming up, then feel free. Please carry on, people. You know, you've all got very good, valid points there, and I agree with everything you're saying. Again, I'm specifically, I know it's a national problem. I'm specifically concerned about Scampton myself more than any other place because of what it represents and everything else that's been.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that at the moment, for the residents, Scampton is our sort of immediate issue, you know, and the wider issue is something that, you know, people can aid with the campaign and that once we've got our home sorted out, basically. Because, you know, we're living here, this affects us directly, immediately, whereas the bigger picture, you know, isn't as important. I know that doesn't sound nice, but when we've got that on the prospect on our doorstep, that's what we need to fight first, and then the bigger picture, we can sort of do what's necessary to help with that.
Well,
afterwards.
that's fair enough. I mean, you can't be expected to do anything else. To be honest, like you've got to do that. You've got to. There was something else that I was thinking about. So I'm guessing from Scampton there is regular, or I'm guessing there's buses to Lincoln. I'm guessing that's there's quite a lot of them.
From Scampton, I think. Don't quote me because I've never got a bus from here, but I think they're every 2 hours.
Okay, so it's not a huge amount. The reason I was asking is because I've had quite a few people that have been sort of going around Lincoln recently and kind of getting, putting the feelers out and kind of getting views from people in Lincoln. I mean, virtually everybody they've spoken to is aware of what's happening in Scampton, and virtually everybody they've spoken to is against it. But yeah, it seems one of the things people are raising is the concern, is that to do with that safety concern of it's potentially thousands of totally unknown, unvetted people, and you've got no clue who they are or what they want to do. And a concern people kept bringing up was, well, they're invariably just going to be getting on buses en masse and coming into Lincoln on day trips or night
so
trips.
They'll be allowed on and off camp as they are in most places, just as and when they want to go off and on camp.
I mean, a lot will obviously do a runner.
Yeah, exactly. This is the danger, you said. We saw that down in Dover, the military base down there, the army base that took over there. There were so many going missing from that and just disappearing in wherever they were heading. The whole thing's an absolute nightmare when you think about it. I can't think of many countries that would be so loose in their security in matters like this. But we just seem to. I don't know. I don't know what's gone wrong. Whether it was our problem with the EU, and the EU had this Shenzhen agreement going on. We carried it on because, let's face it, we never really did Brexit. And I think this is all in connection with it because, across the EU, this has just been absolutely ridiculous. I just can't believe we're allowing these people to just go on and off these camps or, within hotels, wherever they're staying. I've seen them, in the local towns up here in the northeast, down in Wiltshire when I lived down in there. And they look well out of place. And, with the crime that we hear being reported at the moment, that should be number one in everyone's mind is what criminality is it going to bring to the local area? That's, what are the police doing?
Just a quick one. I am going to have to shoot off in a minute because I've been away all weekend. I've only just got back and I've got to be up early in the morning. But a question I will ask, because I think this is a good one, is so obviously me and the people I work with, we've got sort of a degree of outside support that we can bring in regarding this issue. And we've got this event we've planned on the 8th of July in Lincoln. I think there's probably something else that's going to be planned after that. And it is mainly talking about the wider issue, or Scampton in context of the wider issue. But what I want to ask is there anything in particular that you guys, especially those of you, like I know you, Sarah, who live in the village, is there anything that you are doing that you would like to be promoted, or you want people to be directed towards? Like, if that petition's still going, do you want people to be directed towards that, etc.? Is there anything that we can promote to these outside supporters that you think will help you guys?
Well, yeah, I mean, the petition for what it's worth will be taken down to the Home Office. So we are having a bit of a last minute push. We've got the Lincolnshire show at the showground, literally like half a mile away, this coming week. So we're putting, we've got banners and everything up there. We're leafleting everyone. We've got the RAF Fire Museum have been given permission to put our Saving of RAF Scampton banners and signs and that up. So we're having a big push at the Lincolnshire show before we take it to the Home Office, which should be hopefully in July sometime.
Okay. Well, what I'll do then is I will direct people that are sort of in my circles. I'll say to them, like, if you want to help, this is something you can do. Yes, we've got our own stuff, but if you want to help, we'll direct people then to things like promoting the petition. And, if people want to, share or whatever, the fact that there's things happening at the showground or anything like that, that let me know, and we will direct people towards it.
Okay, we're waiting to find out about the injunction, and as I said to Channel 4 when they came the other day, and they said, like, we were talking about the Home Office not coming to speak to people, and she made a point. What happens if they don't come? I said, well, if they don't come here, we'll be going to them. And because of Wethersfield and quite a few other places, North Eye and Portland Port, are having the same problem with the Home Office are just not interacting at all with them, I've been in contact with them all, and we're looking at doing like a joint venture, and whether we can arrange for everyone from those areas to come with us to the Home Office is something we're looking at doing possibly.
No, well, that would be a really good thing if you were able to organise that. Again, I do understand if that is something that you perhaps wouldn't want me to promote simply because you want to keep it as like an in-house thing, then that's fine. Just say that's what you want to do, and that's what I'll do. But yeah, and I've got to shoot off. But as I said, if there's anything you think I can do to help, do let me know. I said I understand, there is political differences, and I understand that. I'm not ignorant of that. So just by all means, let me know.
Political differences in the campaign. That's all. And as I've always said, it's the campaign that has to stay neutral.
Yeah, I get that. And look, for the first sort of month or two this was going on, particularly into April, I'll happily say it in an openly public forum. I take responsibility, and I do apologize for some of the hostility that was coming towards whether it was to yourself, whether it was to your campaign. I take responsibility for that, because it was happening in groups that I controlled, and it was happening with my knowledge. So I do apologize for that. I mean, I make no secret of my dislike for Falconer, Sullivan, the way that they behave, particularly towards me. I make no secret of that. But look, I do want to say, like, I take responsibility for that, because I knew it was happening, and it was happening in the group that I ran. So
Well, thank you for that. That's appreciated. But I mean, like I've said to you before, I've got broad shoulders, and sometimes I'll have a little go back at people, but to be honest, most of it I just laugh at because it's quite sort of comical when you know yourself where you stand, and you've got other people trying to tell you where they think you stand, and it's sort of. Yeah, but no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Can I just say that essentially we're all working for the same goal at the end of the day?
Yes.
I mean, yes, there is a lot of political stuff happening with all this, a lot of different views and stuff like that. But for people on the ground like Alec, yourself, Sarah, and the rest of us, it's good because we are all working for the same goal, and this is what we've got to remember and stick together 100%.
Anyway, sorry. I say I've got to shoot, but thank you for having me on. It was good to hear your guys' views on things, and if you need anything, drop me a message.
Yeah, Alec, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time out. Good to hear from you, and hopefully if we do some more of these on here, then you can come back on again if you have the time and be able to speak with us again.
Yeah, no problem. Just let me know.
Yeah,
well, I'll keep an eye. If I see it pop up on the chat on the pages again, I'll take note of it. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Have a good evening, guys.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Goodbye. Good evening, Token. I hope you're okay, mate. Good to have you here. Anyway, if we can carry this on now, Mike, Sarah, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I sort of did have a lot of criticism because people knew that I was talking to certain asylum seeker charities. And they were like, well, again, you must be a lefty because you're dealing with Hope Not Hate and, all the other different charities. But ultimately, they also want the same end result as us, as in not housing 2,000 asylum seekers at Scampton. So, when you look at the bigger picture, okay, they might want them housed elsewhere and sort of want to take them in and everything, but ultimately they want the same thing. So they've been able to sort of give information that we've been able to use for our campaign, but from the other side of things, so that it's not suitable for them to be housed here, with it being sort of inhumane, whatever accommodation. They are fighting for the same end result, but for different reasons. But ultimately, when our aim as a campaign is to keep the regeneration and stop an asylum centre happening, anyone that is able to help, we will bite their hand off if they're offering it. With regards to the bigger picture, once this fight is over, then that's another matter.
Yeah. See, Hope Not Hate. Yeah, I mean, this is just my personal opinion. You just got to watch who you mix with them, because they use things for their own purposes. And,
I'm fully aware that there's a lot of people that I've, just keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer.
Yeah. Well,
the more information I can get from people, the better. And I will take any help, but I'm also cautious of what people say and how I let them help.
Yeah, I know. I mean, 2,000 people. Is that how many they want to move on to that base? 2,000.
That's just the start.
So, how many actually still live on that area on the base? Just normal people like yourselves.
700. Well, there's 689 registered to vote.
Excuse me, whilst I swear, I just muted myself there. Whilst I swear that's incredible. So they're going to move 2,000 young men onto a base, into a community with families, half
Yep.
less than half, more than half the size of them moving on. That's just
Three to one. The adults here will be outnumbered. I mean, that's 689 people that are registered to vote. So there might be a few more, there might be a few less. We're not quite sure. But yeah, we would say 700 to round it up. But then 2,000, so we'll be outnumbered 3 to 1, basically.
So if they kick off like they did in Dover and set fire to bits of the, and there's people directly living still on the accommodations on the bases, though, I take it.
Yeah, 700 of us.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's children as well, but we don't count those. Maybe sort of 1,000, maybe more than 1,000. But we have elderly here.
Mind lets these single men over. You got children, you got young girls. It's in our papers all the time, isn't it? The outcome of this, it's ridiculous. Someone at central government, I mean, no doubt this is happening all up and down the country, in Wales as well as Scotland. They just don't seem to give two hoots for the indigenous people, don't they? It just seems to be, well, we'll dump them on their doorstep.
Well, you said it. Who in their right mind? We're talking about the government here.
Why are they being moved into areas like the Cotswolds, where most of these MPs have got their second homes, and places like that, or down Poole in Dorset, where all the footballers and the millionaires live? Why aren't they being integrated with these communities? But these are like your Gary Linekers and that. These are the people that will go on to the national press and go, "Oh yes, well we must support these people," and they do nothing themselves. Like Gary Lineker, a bit of an exception to the rule. He had a guy in his house for the month, and it was a wing on the side of his house, apparently. The media. But this is what frustrates me. Why don't we move them into the politicians and the lords and in their areas? Why aren't these being selected? I don't know. I've been careful with my language here. It does seem like they're standing there and they are peeing all over us in our faces, and they're smiling while they're doing it. It's unbelievable. 2,000. I didn't realise it was that many.
I've also made the point of saying that if it gets that much, if there's that many coming in, well, at some point the government turn around and make it compulsory that anybody with a spare bedroom has to house one of them.
Well, nothing surprises me. It really don't. Nothing surprises me. Well, we saw how that backfired with some of the Ukrainian families that come over, and a lot of them turned sour. People do it for virtual signaling now. I mean, when the Ukraine war kicks off, sorry, I'm only using this as an example. I don't want to start talking about that necessarily. But what surprised me the most is how many Ukrainian flags were flown immediately all over the place. And it's like, well, I bet they don't even know where Ukraine is. They've never heard of it. They don't know nothing about Ukraine. But it was just like a virtual signaling thing, because we've demonized Russia for God knows how many decades. And, and it's like, oh, well, they're bad, man. That's good, man. Put your flags up. And it's like, well, do you realize that the UN's actually labeled that country years ago as the most corrupt in Europe? It's child sex trafficking is absolutely disgraceful what happens on in that country. The money laundering that goes through that country. BBC 24, not BBC 24, BBC Newsnight done a very good documentary on the Azov child Nazi summer camps that they held out there. France 24 and Deutsche Welle, their state broadcasters, also so they're still out there on YouTube. And that was only in 2019. They put 2 documentaries up about the child trafficking. And again, the Deutsche Welle done one on the international money laundering that's run there. It just seems to me that, I don't know, we've gone soft touch here. In this country, we just support the next virtual signaling thing led by our media. And this is why I think this exactly is going to be a tough cookie to crack on a national scale, because, unless it's affecting people directly, no one cares. They don't care how bad these people are. No one cares about Ukraine's regime, but they're going to support it. And that's what scares me about this. Our media are so deceitful in the information that they give. It's a battle. This is a battle. I can't think of one site yet, apart from, God, what was that one? And that wasn't too far from you, wasn't it? It was a village. I'm trying to think of the base now. That was another RAF base last year, wasn't it? It was Yorkshire Village. I think it was North Yorkshire.
Linton-on-Ouse.
Linton-on-Ouse, that's the one. Thanks, Sarah. That they were successful. So that gives me a glimmer of hope here. If you get enough people locally and on a national basis as well to support this. I mean, this isn't just a military base. This has got sort of heritage behind it. A very important
in
heritage.
History. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And are the rumours right that they've actually dug up the dog that's there?
Not yet.
Oh, they've not. Oh, right. Okay. But they've took everything else away that might trigger them. It is. It's unbelievable times. It really is.
There's obviously like the planning permission to move the grave was submitted, and West Lindsey District Council are sort of waiting basically because you can submit your objections or your sort of ideas on it, and they're waiting for that to finish before they hold like a public meeting. So
Right.
I'm hoping once we've got a date and a location for that that needs to be spread far and wide, because if it's then the media will sort of be invited to come along as well. If it gets back to the Home Office that people are that outraged and that upset that they will come to a public meeting over a dog's grave on Scampton, then can you imagine what it would be like?
So, Sarah, why did the Linton case on Ouse get so much media coverage, whereas Scampton seems to be in the background? It's more local news. It's not on national news. We're not seeing this on national news. The only reason why I knew this was rearing its ugly head is because Nicholas came on Deanology's channel, and I started to hear about it there. But this isn't really getting the national press coverage like Linton-on-Ouse is. Is it? That makes me just. I don't know, did they look at it and think, oh, blimey, them people won. We can't have that. We can't keep putting stories out like this.
Yeah, well, with regards to Linton-on-Ouse, I mean, the news dropped on the Tuesday or Wednesday, and by the weekend, I was in a Zoom call with quite a few of the guys from Linton, because I'd reached out to them and said, look, you won your campaign. Is there anybody that can help? We need your help, and they have been absolutely amazing. With regards to sort of, I mean, one of the issues protesting, and everybody wants to protest and do something because they need an outlet basically. And that Linton-on-Ouse made quite a lot of sense that it's got to be targeted protesting. There's no point in wasting your time and energy protesting to the people of Lincoln or people just driving up and down the A15. It needs to be the Home Office that you're protesting to, and and the right way to go about things. And they've been there, done that. So I'm going to listen. I mean, a lot of things are changed because once the Home Office were defeated there, they then sort of looked at the law and started changing things. So the next place couldn't use the same sort of tactics as Linton. So they're changing laws, and I mean they're even doing it now. The fact that they're using they're using Section Q for their emergency planning permission. But they're trying to get through Parliament at the moment where they can give themselves basically planning permission for any Crown land for as long as they want. So,
despite what the local council thinks of it, the central government can just bootstep over it. So forget your sort of year and sort of having to put up with this for a year before the local council can turf them off because of planning. They're actually looking at
giving themselves planning permission and just riding sort of completely over the top of any council and any objections and any local sort of objection that there might be.
Just backs up what I was saying with my opening bit, was that they don't care about us. There's no consideration about us, what impact it has on local communities, what impact it has on crime, let alone who these people are. They bang on about terrorism and stuff like that, and they're just letting these people in, and they don't know nothing about them. This is what's frustrating. It's I know that you've got your issue there with Scampton, but I can see this being, if this fails, I can see this being a big issue on a national level. If they're really going to them lengths to override local authorities, planning permission and stuff like that, this is that. If they get that through, that's serious, because they will just walk all over us, no matter what part of the country you're in. They will just boot step all over us, and that's a scary thought. That really is. We're living in a dictatorship. I think there's no public consultations. There's nothing, and only politically what we see going on at the moment, whether it be Labour or Conservatives. I don't think anyone is answerable to the public or the people that elect them, and this is one thing that really does concern me. It's out of control.
This is it. The whole public consultation. It's been. I've lost count of the weeks now. I got to 11 and 12, and then I've lost what day we are and that. So, I mean, just over 3 months. I'm guessing we must be on week 13, 14 by about now, something like that. But yeah, over 3 months this has been, and not one. I mean, if it wasn't for the press, and I mean, what the council have told us now, we wouldn't know that it's happening.
No,
because
disgusting.
The Home Office have not written, they haven't met with us or anything. And no matter how many times we've told them, they've postponed and cancelled on meetings with West Lindsey District Council. They were supposed to have one this week, and we're yet to wait to hear the results of that.
So they've not had a meeting with the local council, even, let alone the people. Up until last week, because they'd cancelled and postponed. I think the last one was supposed to be on the 31st of May, and they cancelled that one. They were invited to the residents' meeting that we had on the 20th of March, and Edward Lee was invited as well. But sadly, they couldn't attend because they were both meeting with each other in London. So why they couldn't have then moved the meeting up here so they could all attend, beggars belief. But yeah, so no, we've had no consultation whatsoever with the Home Office, and we've had our local MP here twice. We've had him, and another resident has invited him here to say, look, I said, we demand a meeting. We're not requesting one, we demand one. And even still, there is still no date for a residents' meeting. Well,
can I just add a point about the dog's grave, that English Heritage have opposed it. So that may go quite a long way towards it not happening with any luck.
Yeah, because I didn't get that wrong, didn't I? They are wanting to take that away, aren't they? And any
That's
sort of
correct.
memorial to it.
Well,
yeah, that's disgusting. Disgusting.
The quote that was used was, "It might upset the guests."
Well, I mean, you got two sides of it. When I first heard about it, that the planning permission had been submitted, there was part of me that was like, thank God, because, we don't want that being desecrated and something happening to it. I would rather it be moved than be trashed, basically. But I would rather it stay here than it be moved. So, you're torn, because I'm like, do I sign a petition or not? Because, I would rather they move it than it gets trashed if this goes ahead. But I don't want them to leave it when it could go somewhere else and be looked after and be appreciated for what it is. So, but after speaking to a few people, objections to it is the best way to go ahead at the moment. Objections to it being moved. and the more objections, the better. So if you can find it on the local planning site and sort of put a case ahead. I mean, a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, but you can't just say, I think it's a bad idea because of the history. You need to be able to put a little bit more into it and use sort of specific reasons why. But yeah, it's a case of sort of, don't I to protect it? You need it moved, but we don't want it moved because it's part of the heritage. So,
but the problem there with the government is if they move the grave, then the government will turn around and say, well, there's actually no heritage left at Scampton anymore, so we can do what we want. And this is what I truly believe is the thinking of the government. Take that away, take any part of the heritage that's left on site away.
So they've railroaded
do what they want.
So have they railroaded? There was a private enterprise thing that was going on there as well, wasn't there? With
£300 million, yes.
So they've railroaded that. Not only have they done that, they want to take away any heritage to do with the site at all, because they seem to be eradicating this country's history at this very moment.
Right. Sorry, just to clarify, it's not the Home Office or the government that's trying to move the grave. It's actually the RAF to try and preserve the heritage.
For the government.
They've gone woke, haven't they? We've only got to look out at the publicity of the RAF, the Army, the Navy at the moment. It's gone woke, and this is a consequence of our armed forces going woke. And I'm afraid to say, I know that's political. I know it's got certain feelings with certain people and stuff like that. But we've got to understand the consequences of when something goes woke, everything goes broke. And that just doesn't mean financially neither. That means our own heritage. They don't care. They've put people into these places that really don't care. And we've only got to look at our leadership in this country at the moment, whether it be mayors, whether it be in politics, whatever it is. These people have got no actual loyalties to this country or its people at all. And I think we're just getting a flavour of that now. And with what you're saying, this, was it Q policy or something?
Section Q, which gives emergency, basically gives them emergency planning permission for a year.
That's scary. Wow, I didn't know that. And that's very concerning, because that means they can just railroad anything at a drop of a government pen.
Exactly.
I mean that is specifically for Crown land though, so they couldn't just rock up anywhere and say, right, okay, we're having this, but anywhere that is considered as Crown land.
Most historical sites. Most of the Crown land is all our history, is all our historical. We couldn't just walk into a country and start, and invading them and then taking away their legacy or their heritage. We'd be shouted down by the left. But why are the left so adamant that ours should be taken away? Why should we be ashamed of our history? That's what we're being taught at this very moment. We should be ashamed of everything that's ever happened in our past. It should be deleted. Statues being pulled down, RAF bases, army bases being used to house people that don't particularly like us, to be honest, if you want to think about it. And that's the reality of it. The people that are coming here don't particularly like us. They're not the sort of people that you'd want to move in as neighbours, because they don't want nothing to do with us. If anything that's learned about this multiculturalism over the last 50, 60 years, it works in some places and with some cultures, but there is toxic cultures out there that just don't want anything to do with us. And unfortunately, most of the countries that are coming over on boats at this very moment are from that sector. And all I see is assistance from either the Home Office, the Border Force, the central government. It's really concerning, which is why, I opened up with saying that this is a national security problem. As well as local, this is a national security problem. How many of these guys are actually sleepers that when they get their call in, it's going to kick off? Because these are angry people. You've only got their reactions on the boat, the videos you see on the boats, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And they're making it perfectly clear before they step a foot on soil here. of what their motives are.
Yeah, and I mean that sometimes it just looks as if they're like, "Ha ha, you've got to put us up, and
Yeah, they know.
we've got one over on you."
You got that charity. Was it Help for Calais or something, or a British
Care for
charity?
Calais.
Care for Calais. That's the one. They're telling them all this. They're advising them that, oh, don't worry, you're untouchable, and you're going to get better health care than what the citizens of the UK get. By the sound of it. You're going to certainly get treated better than any veteran that's been made homeless in this country. And this is what really does sicken me. And to see this, I mean, I just can't believe they're moving 2,000 people onto that base. That is very, very concerning, not only to your local community there, but I think if we look at the bigger picture, because we've got to look at the bigger picture, this is a national issue and it is a threat to our national security.
You say it's a national issue. I absolutely 100% agree with that. But the problem with the British people at the moment is they're sitting back and they've got this thought in their head saying, well, if it doesn't affect me, then I'm not interested. Exactly. But then what happens when it does start affecting them, and it's going to affect everybody, that's when they'll start sitting up and saying, well, why is all this happening? Well, why can't it be stopped and stuff like that? Well, if you got off your backside in the first place and did something bad to start with, then it wouldn't be happening.
This is it. But then you've also got people. I mean, this is a quote from somebody that somebody wrote about me. I got screenshot it. The Save Our Scampton campaign are the far right bunch of racist NIMBYs who think that just because their ancestors flew a few planes and imposed colonialism over other countries, that entitles them to separate themselves from the rest of society.
Disgusting. And this is being taught in universities. This is why the youngsters, they've got no respect for this country at all, a lot of them. I'm not saying all of them. That would be wrong of me to tar everyone with the same brush. But in general, this is why respect's going. This is why it's do as their will on the streets now. And this is being manifested in our education system. That's where it starts. As parents, you've got to be quite clear as to where this is all emanating from. And I think it is very clear because it's even in the national press, it's about what they're doing within our education system. There's no respect for our heritage anymore. I feel insulted now when November the 11th comes round every year because I see MPs going up to that cenotaph and I just think, no, really. None of you care. What you're doing is just playing up to the cameras. You're a disgrace, an absolute disgrace that people that have laid down their lives for this country, not just from Second World War, but in recent conflicts as well, they must be spinning in their bloody graves and spitting blood because if they can see, if they had a camera shot of what's going on today in this country, I think they'd be held to loose because all the proper men are fading out as far as I'm concerned. It's this feminism. It is a concern, and it's because one thing I've always questioned is, well, how do we fight back? Well,
this is it. I think this is where people don't fight because they're not quite sure how to without being just instantly labelled
racist and that's the usual thing. So what they've done now, they've diluted those words so much that they're actually meaningless now. When someone calls me racist for having a particular view, it's just like waters off a duck back. It just means nothing. It's irrelevant. It's just the get out cards that they use to try and stop any debate or any discussion on this subject. And there's plenty of them out there. That's the thing. You get called all the isms, the ists and phobics they can come up with, and that is weapon. They've weaponized it. They've weaponized those words. They don't even know what Nazi is. They call you a Nazi.
As a campaign, we'd gone from sort of being 1 week left the next week right to it changing on a daily basis now, that in the morning the left are calling us right and the right are calling us left, and it's like, oh, hold on a minute.
The good news is they've only got tiny brains and their toolbox is very small and they soon run out. That's the good news, and I think eventually they'll burn themselves out. We're seeing that with this rainbow rubbish at the moment that we're all put through to suffer. I find it amazing that we get one day to commemorate or celebrate the World War II victory, as it were. These get a whole month. We got to with a month of it. It's it just shows me the respect that we give to veterans or people who contributed during the Second World War, and and onwards through conflict since then. It seems to me no one really gives a shit. All they're concerned about is virtual signaling, worrying about everyone else's problems and everyone else's issues. Same with Ukraine. We should never get involved. It's between Russia and Ukraine. Let them get on with it. But we'll use the old the boogeyman in the woods. It's Russia. It always has been that way. We've got to have a bogeyman, and they'll use it against us. They'll just drag us into anything. And look at the state of us now. We should not be getting involved in any other nation's problems at the moment because we've got far too many here. But that seems the way they like it at the moment, which is all the more concerning because they're not listening to the people. They're not listening to us. And once that line of communication goes with your local MP, the government, I can't imagine how it's going to end up. I really can't. I've got an idea. I don't want to say, but I don't think it's going to end very happily.
I mean, I'm gonna say a quote that I use an awful lot, and I think it's a very poignant and true quote by Sir Winston Churchill. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. And that is a very, very, very true saying.
To so few, yeah. Well, that makes so much sense now, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. Considering what we're all facing now and what's happening, it makes a whole lot more sense than, well, it made sense back there in World War II, but it makes even more sense now with what's happening.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is, and this is what frustrates me. Your average person doesn't really want a conversation about this, and that's the first sort of hurdle that you're going to fall down over is getting that support. I'm sure as a community that you are getting that support, but it needs to be taken to a bigger scale, a national scale. Have you done this? I know some of them seem quite pointless, but have you done the parliamentary petition thing? Whether if you get to 10,000, you have to debate it, or Sarah, you're laughing. I know what's coming.
What, the fact that they wouldn't actually approve the petition?
You're kidding.
No, they didn't. They wouldn't approve it. They denied the petition.
Does that
hence why it's done on change.org, because anyone can set up a petition there, but tried on the gov.uk and it was denied. The parish council tried to do one as well, and that got denied as well.
Flipping it. That's
so, and it's not actually guaranteed that when you get to 100,000 that it will actually be debated in Parliament either. So it's
I thought they lowered it. I thought they lowered the threshold now to 10,000.
No, I think it's 10,000. I can't remember what the criteria is now. That we can consider, but it's 100,000 to get them to actually debate it in Parliament.
Right. So 10,000 is probably just a reading. It'll get read in Parliament, but they won't debate it.
No. 10,000 is just so that they read the petition. That's it. And then 100,000 is debating in Parliament if they allow it. And like Sarah quite rightly said, that's if they allow it. There's no guarantee it'll be read in Parliament or debated in Parliament.
Wow.
And because of what it is at the moment and where it is, that I truly again believe that they're keeping this quashed so that it'll go through. They won't allow it to be debated in Parliament.
That's a scary prospect. That I mean, they keep going on about the word about freedom of speech and democracy. Well, I've never lived in a period in my lifetime, where I think we're living in a very democratic state at this very moment, and you have to keep watching what you're going to say. I've never felt like that in the past. Ever more now, certainly when it's on social media, certainly with YouTube. I mean, you can't debate. It's not YouTube. It's what they call MeTube. It's all about YouTube and Google. So why they call it YouTube, I don't know, because that certainly isn't the case now. You've got to sign up to their terms of, agreement at terms or whatever they call it. Yeah, you got terms of service where you got to sign up to their globalist ideals, and it's scary times really when you think about it. I think we've never been so unfree, as it were, because to not get that through Parliament with a petition, and they won't even see the petition. It's on a serious subject. It's not as if it's about what colour socks we should be wearing on a Tuesday. It's a serious issue. We got thousands of these illegal immigrants, and they are illegal immigrants. Why are we assisting illegal immigrants? Let's face it, that's what they are.
I mean, the argument is that the government have closed so many of the legal routes that is the only option now. Whether you're genuine or not, then it's got to be sort of an illegal route in, because of we've closed.
We're tiny islands. We can't look. We can't cope with what we got here now. We can't cope 10 years ago with the numbers of people we got here now. Our infrastructure is falling to pieces, and I mean that's our utilities, that's our education system, that's housing, health. It's all falling to pieces. But here we have now record amounts of immigrants being assisted, not coming in, being assisted by the government that telling us that they can't cope with social housing, they can't cope with the NHS, they can't cope with the utility structure in this country. The electricity system's on its knees.
I don't know if you saw, there was a news report about a gentleman that died in November. Actually, don't quote me on any of the details. I'll just give you a rough idea. But, during COVID, when they were housing the homeless, during the winter of lockdown, there was an ex-service personnel. He was in the RAF, and he had actually carried Diana's coffin from the plane when it arrived back from Paris.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And he was one of the Queen's footmen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was in a very, 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 very important job. Going on from what Sarah was saying, this gentleman, because he went and served in Iraq and in Afghanistan, he came back with PTSD. He ended up on the street drinking a lot because of it. There was no help for him whatsoever. And this poor gentleman ended up dying cold, with no blanket or anything, in a church doorway.
He went to a hostel, and they gave him, there was like no room at the inn, so they gave him a sleeping bag and a blanket.
But the thing is, we've always treated veterans, ex-army, ex-air force, ex-navy, we've always treated them like shit, and we've allowed it. My grandfather said after the Second World War, people's PTSD, they didn't call it PTSD then. I mean, World War One, they used to call it shell shocked. I forget what they called it during World War Two, where men were going off their heads. They lost everything, became homeless. They never got any help. We've always treated ex-servicemen like shit in this country. We treat the example, we can see it now. Look at the treatment these guys are getting when they get off the boats down at Dover. It's all laid on for them. Our veterans don't get none of that. And as a nation,
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, go on, Sarah. Go on.
No, I was going to say, when you compare to over in America, where but having served for your country, if you mention that you're ex-forces, anyone will say thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Over here you say I'm ex-RAF, and it's like, oh right, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't mean nothing. That's what I'm saying. Nothing means nothing anymore. You know, all them values have been taken away. And if anything, well, we've gone totally the opposite way. We'll do anything and say anything to demonize the country's past. It's like any country, any nation. It's got its good points. It's got its bad points. Boy, we've got ours. But there are certain things that this country has done that's good. And, it's just a pity that some people can't pick that up and grasp it rather than slag the country down for all its past and its history. I think that's what's done it, is the education system has been actively, certainly over the last 20, 30 years at a push, have been turning, the less and less teaching historical facts about this country. It seems to be now they're more worried about what are the 102 genders the children want to be, and that's what's priority in the education system at the moment. And it's a shame to see it. It really is, because I think we're just bearing the fruits of all those decades of where being proud to be patriotic, being proud of our history and all that stuff's been knocked out of people. We're bearing the fruits of that now. And this is why I do believe this was all planned. And it weren't planned since COVID. It wasn't planned in 2010. It wasn't planned in Blair's era. This was planned years ago. You've only got to look at the Frankfurt 1922 school, the sessions they were holding in 1938 in Germany before, things got really bad with the Nazi party. With the Marxists getting together, coming up with their 11-point plan, how to destroy the West. Well, if you look at that 11-point plan from the 1922 Frankfurt School, it's called the 11-point plan. You can tick every single one of them off. And it goes about destroying your culture, the family units, demonizing the mother and father. And that's what we're seeing now. We're living it. We're living that 11-point plan. And that was wrote in 1938. So,
good evening, Coco. Welcome to the chat. Can I just add that Crazy Lady Jane, Dodge, Wender, if you would like to come up on the panel, it's pinned at the top of the chat. Please come on and talk to us, or anybody else in chat. If you feel like coming up and having a say, then please feel free to. This is what this is all about, getting people's points across, people's thoughts and opinions, so please come up and talk to us.
And to just be able to have a sound off, so when you're talking to the press the next day, you can put a smile on and be all nice and polite.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, these things have got to be discussed, and I know it's a difficult subject, and a lot of people don't want to listen to the reality of what's going on. They live in a day-to-day bubble where 9 times out of 10 they're consumed by what's on the telly and what reality programs on. That's their little world. God help you if you come across with a pin and go pop. They wouldn't do that. They're not doing this. Tinfoil hat. That's their reaction. And
we've had people that have sort of slated us for wanting to keep the heritage at Scampton, because do we know how many people died when the Dam Busters raid happened? And I'm like, and do you know how much devastation that caused, and how many civilians died, and okay, so that's what we're up against.
Yeah, but again, how many civilians died in London and in Coventry during the war when they bombed us?
Exactly.
We've got to remember that it was the Germans that bombed us first.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be celebrating the fact that we killed lots of people, apparently.
We didn't have dozens of concentration camps and doing what the Germans were doing out there in their concentration camps, not only in Germany and in Poland. And this is the thing that people were ignorant to. They'll just come up with their views. Oh, that was 70 years ago, 80 years ago, you can't just write off history like that. You really can't. And
you have to learn from it.
Yes, but we never do, don't we? And this is why, because people just then, don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And here we are now, probably entering World War III with the way things are going at the moment. Britain, we're just a little yap dog at the heels of Russia at the moment. when we haven't got the forces that we used to have. We haven't got the empire anymore. We haven't got a navy. Well, if anything, you've only got to look at the failures of that. All these new Class 45 destroyers, the aircraft carriers they've got. They're constantly backwards and forwards into Devonport, having engines removed because they were the wrong ones scoped for Mediterranean service, where the seas are a bit warmer. We've had to break the hulls of 4 ships to have the engines replaced, and now we've got all these problems with the aircraft carriers. So I think one thing we better do is just button it and shut up, because we are not, what we used to be. We haven't really got a full size count for being qualified as an army anymore. We've gone below that. Was it 150,000 or 100,000? We've gone well below that.
86,000. There's more asylum seekers in this country than what there is around
the
world.
Oh my God.
British forces.
Yeah, our army's moved out, and we've got a foreign lot moved in, because no one can tell me a good percentage of those guys coming off them boats. Just look at their boots and everything that they're coming in with. You're not telling me they're not military change. I know a lot of them have like a national service type thing there, but these guys are primed for it. I can see it. That might be a conspiracy theory to some people, but from what I'm seeing and what my eyes are witnessing, this ain't normal. It ain't normal.
I think I mentioned last time that, with regards to the security checks and the health and welfare checks that they have, they're expecting the people that come to Scampton to have only arrived in the country 1 to 2 days previously. Now, how can the government be checking the backgrounds of these people when I have lived here? Well, no, I've lived abroad twice, but spent most of my life here. I can have a DBS certificate that may be only a year or two sort of previous, but when I submit a new one, it takes 6 weeks to get back. Now, if it takes them 6 weeks to check that I'm not on any registers or, got a criminal background, how can they do this when they're foreign in 1 to 2 days?
Exactly. Mine took 2 months with the MOD clearance I have for my job that I do at the moment. I also have to have police clearance, which took around about a month. So there's no way, and I lived here and I've lived here all my life. There's no way they can turn around and say in a couple of days, they can check out a foreign national that's arrived here with no ID, they've ditched it over the side of the boat, no paperwork or nothing. How is that working? They don't even know what country they're coming from, because a lot of them, they're all saying that they're from Iraq, a lot of them, when they're not. It's ridiculous. Anyone that believes what they're telling us is away with the fairies.
I think I had to prove my birth certificate, my driving license, my passport, and then a bill
Family
or something
Family
to prove.
checks as well.
To prove that was me.
Yeah,
and it still took that long. And they're saying that they can check these people within 1 to 2 days before bringing them here.
Yeah. That's that in itself is laughable, absolutely laughable. I mean, there's no way. I mean, they're dealing with 9 times out of 10 with corrupt regimes that could actually tell them anything. So they could say, "Oh, it was Mohammed so and so or whatever. Where was he born? Al Hilal in Iraq or wherever. Can you tell us a bit about him?" And they'll just tell them anything. They'll, what are they going to send them? What are they going to send? If you've ever been to Al Hilal or any place in Iraq, it's if you look at their municipalities or what do they call them, the muqtas and all that, and how they do business out there, you've got to have a screw loose to trust any information that comes out that country. 9 times out of 10, if they do find out who they are, they're false identities within that country anyway. So, they're running from something. Where's all the women and children? What's happening with them?
Well, I mean, I was told that the reason it's mostly men is because it's the men that are targeted to fight for these regimes, and they're the ones that are told, like, you pick up a gun and fight for us or you're dead, basically.
How about the women? They're treated like crap. They're treated worse than men. There's no way that the women are treated worse than men in these countries. And for any grown man that has any sort of feelings for his wife or whoever, is to leave them in the care of the Taliban or whoever, ISIS or whatever, whoever's the local command, knowing that they're going to be raped, knowing that they're not going to be treated any good. Well, they're not men at all. I think they're here for a different purpose. I really do. I think that there's a calling been made, and they're here, and they'll wait it out when they're here in their numbers that they want to be in. You know, and the numbers at this very moment in time are scary, and they're getting scarier every month. Now we got the good weather back, but I have to say, even last winter, there were still thousands coming across during the winter months when the weather wasn't that good. They're just getting braver with it, and they're determined to get here. And you got to ask that question, why? But you know, like you say, you can't blame them for coming here and taking a chance, because they're allowed to. The people I do blame and I question are our own establishment. I think there's something wrong there. For this to happen on this scale, there's something seriously wrong. They cannot keep on bleating to us, the police and everyone else. Well, it's a high terrorism risk at the moment. It's they can't keep. Well, they're encouraging it. That's my answer to them is, well, hold up a minute. You're telling us there's a high security risk at the very moment of threats of terror. You're the guys importing them from these countries that are the ones that are the terrorists. You know, it don't make sense. It really is like a collective mental illness within establishment that's trickled down to the public, because I'm surprised there is no big backlash to this at all.
Well, when Channel 4 were here sort of interviewing the other week, they turned the cameras off and we were just chatting, and she made a point of saying, like, you know, why is everyone so scared that they're going to come on, you know, and create problems here? And, you know, they're not all criminals. And I I'm like, they could all be model citizens in their own country, right? But when push comes to shove, if you need to protect yourself or your family, you will do whatever. And she said to me, because I said about like that we're worried about locking our back doors in case things go missing, and, you know, not leaving stuff out in the garden, make sure you double lock your car, and, you know, don't leave windows. I fell asleep on the sofa the other week and woke up in a panic because I'd left the downstairs window open. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, I wouldn't be able to do that. And she said, you know, why do you think they're all going to be criminals, that they're going to do it? You wouldn't do that. And I'm like, but I would. If I was in the situation that the government's putting them in when they get here, even like, I've never been arrested, I've never been in trouble with the police, but if I had gone to another country and, you know, my family needed money to send back to them and there was no other way of me getting that money, or, you know, I needed phone credit or to be able to ring them to check they're okay or anything like that, I would do whatever necessary, whether it's legal or not, to be able to do that for my family. So it doesn't matter, you know, even if they did come over and they've got no records, there's nothing to say that the situation that our government's then going to put them in is not going to drive them to more extremes, to do something that they wouldn't normally do. So you've got that on top of it.
Yeah, the Channel 4 lady, I would have posed the question back to her with another question and said, well, where you live on Farquhar on Tweed or wherever it is, would you put up with it? Would you have it in your neighbourhood? Grown men coming in their thousands into your village or little town and just accept it? No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. This is the thing with these lefty media outlets. They're so hypocritical. They expect us to put up with it, but themselves, because these are all from, look, you've only got to look through the media. They're all from either the North London set, the Cotswolds set, the Cheshire set. They live in different worlds to us, but what's ingrown into their brain is that we're different to them, and we should have to put up with anything that's thrown at us. So that's one thing I do throw back at them when I'm posed with that is, well, would you put up with it? And 9 times out of 10, they won't answer it. Oh, well, no, our house is, it's the same thing about taking migrants in board. All these lefties going out with the pink hair and the blue hair and all that. Immigrants welcome. You go up and question them and say, well, when are you putting them up? Oh, no.
I don't have space.
Yeah, that's right. Don't have the room anymore and blah, blah, blah. Always make an excuse, but they expect us to do it. They expect everyone else to do it. And this is the thing. This is the worrying thing: is that there's not enough of us that are opposed to it, that are prepared to put our heads above the parapet because they know the consequences, the risk of being cancelled, whatever that is with this cancel culture now. They're nasty people. They'll go after your employer. I
was just going to say that. Yeah, you stick your head above the parapet, then on either side, and with the joys of social media, someone's ready to report you to whoever necessary to get you to lose your job.
Well, I'm self-employed, thank God. So,
so am I.
yeah. It is. So, you've got to look at both sides of it. It ain't easy. But the thing is, it's always strength in numbers. Once, you get like-minded people on, all right, some may not be activists, some may not want to say much, but they're in agreement. And normally when more and more people come on board, them sort of people build the confidence because they see more and more people doing it. It's a slow process. But I think, I'm not saying it's too late, but I think we've left this a little bit too late. We saw this coming years ago. And, everyone just went, well, it's not affecting me yet, like Nicholas said. And now it's gone to the point where it's just gone boom. And everyone's coming over. Whoever thought that we'd see rubber dinghies, right? Our Navy couldn't stop them coming over. This is the thing. We're talking about fighting the Russian Navy and the Chinese Navy and every other fucking Navy on this planet. We can't stop rubber dinghies coming over the channel. Who are they to kid us in Parliament that we're a worldwide fighting force? We're an embarrassment. That's what we've become. We're an embarrassment. We're a woke embarrassment where the armed forces at this very day in 2023 are more concerned about their fucking rainbow flags and what gender people are and what they're going to call them, Z's, A's, M, whatever it is. It's an embarrassment. And we're a laughing stock, same as the US. We're a laughing stock.
Just a good night to Wenda Cox. Thank you for coming. Much appreciated. Please come back to any future ones. It'll be good to hear your views. And good evening to Mr. Baldy Audits from Belfast. Thank you for joining us. If you wish to come up on the panel, please feel free. It's pinned at the top of the chat. Other than that, Mike, take it away.
I was hoping to get a rest from that because I'm but, I know what you're dealing with is a sort of a local issue, as it were, but it's being replicated more and more up and down the country, and I'm just trying to bring a bit more of a sort of global aspect. That's not the right word. A national aspect of how this is going to affect this country, or how it is affecting this country already, not how it will, how it is. It's obviously having a profound effect on, everything from healthcare to housing to crime. And the biggest thing, because the usual answer from the left is when we go on about child rape and stuff like that is oh, yeah, but it's mainly white men that do it. But if you look at the figures per capita at the moment, on race and certain crimes, it's scary per capita. They're massively higher percentages than just saying, well, it's mainly white men doing it. It's and all I see that figure's growing. It's growing, and we can see it in thousands every week. I just can't see how people can't see where we're going with this, what the risk is. Like I say, not all of them. And there's probably quite a small percentage of them that will go out and do them horrific crimes. But again, it's a snowball effect, and I think we've gone beyond it now. The snowball's so big, they don't know how to stop it. People can't talk about it because it's such a tender issue for some of them. It causes harm and offence and alarm and distress and all that. Just discussing it. It's difficult.
like I said last time on here, I think the worst, like our front page news on camp would be that a shed window got broken with some kids throwing stones. And that's basically like, oh my God, really? Who was it? And, string them up. And that's like the worst of it in the last 3 months since this was announced. And so, hands up. Until this was on our doorstep, I maybe hadn't appreciated how awful it would be for people to be in this situation. And then once it's on your doorstep and potentially happening to you, and then you actually are forced to accept, oh my God, and then to be able to act. So yeah, I'm just as guilty as all the rest of, watching it on the news, hearing the stories and thinking, oh my God, that's awful, but not like, oh, what can we do to help, until it's actually, affecting your life. And then it's like, right, shit, I need to do something. Yeah. And so I can understand, appreciate why other people aren't doing stuff, because up until now, I wouldn't have had a clue what to do.
Yeah. See, well, the thing is as well, it's like how authorities have also had a hand in this, because when it started becoming prevalent in mainstream media that young girls were being raped by grooming gangs up and down this country, I mean, near enough in every major city, this has been going on. The police were just writing these children off as, they know that, they're like tarts. They know what they're doing and stuff like that. And they dress up and they're asking for it. When in fact, it's turning out that that's not the case at all. So we're our own worst enemy, to be honest. But that's the thing that shocks me is that how can a society stand by and just write off not hundreds but thousands of children that have been affected by this and not have an opinion about it, or too scared to have an opinion? Because when it's the lowest thing in society. If you can't protect your children, you're a lost nation, and that's a fact. If you cannot protect your children, or you do not feel like you that you can't protect your children, that's in a bad place. We're in a bad place, and as a nation, I think we're in a very bad place, because as a general, I just think people just brush it off.
So for context, the RAF Scampton, we're on the former Maori quarters, and obviously at one point it was all open, so I could have walked straight from my front door onto the runway. There was nothing stopping us. And 26 years ago, they put a wire up when they started selling off the houses. Yeah, right. Thank you for the map there. Yeah, that's if you go. Oh, that little yellow star. Oh, that's it. What's that little yellow dot that's there?
That would be your company.
That would be me. That's me. So if you zoom back out again, you can see that we're one of the closest ones to sort of like the actual runway, right on the corner there. So so there's now a wire sort of on that boundary line that looks like it was a road at one point, but it's now the wire. But if you follow that wire all the way to the right, Nicholas, right up into the A15, we shall get
round there.
Yes, the wire comes
straight past the officers' mess.
Right.
All the way up here. Goes round by the school. But
this is where I was getting to. So the wire then follows it round right into the school, which is up against the wire.
Yep.
So we've got on the former Maori quarters, we have a primary school.
So what's that? A 7-8 foot fence? Is it? It's like 7 or 8 foot tall, just a chain link fence.
Chain link wire fence, yeah.
Right.
So they're looking at putting like extra fencing in around the school and privacy screening, and obviously a normal fence to sort of stop people getting in and people getting out. But yeah, the fact we've got a school there, and then where the road bent just now, it goes straight past the nursery school that we've got here as well.
See, the thing is, mean, we've seen it in Dover with them chatting schoolgirls up. We saw it in Liverpool and how the locals reacted to it there. They weren't impressed at all. And they were quite openly coming out the hotels and chatting up, waiting for the schoolgirls to come out. I've seen a case down in Weston-super-Mare where that was happening as well, where they're going out and they're following schoolgirls around. It's, and that sort of thing really concerns me, because it's like, well, that's something that the press really don't want to talk about until something kicks off.
Yeah.
It's like a hidden thing that goes on. It's happened in Wakefield. It's happened in most of the Yorkshire towns and cities. You get down to the Midlands, it was rife in the Midlands as well. Even in Oxford and Sherwell, the big cases down there. I look at that map. I mean, Christ, you're going to be right near. Is that where the red arrows are? That's where they're housing them, is it?
Right. So where the red arrows are, yeah, that's the RAF at. So that's the last known place that they said that they were going to put the containers. So yeah, I mean, I can see them from our front door. It's quite a trek across the field, but yeah, we'll be able to see. Well, depending on the fencing, sort of where they're putting them, but they're just saying about putting them on hard standing now and trying to make the area sort of as contained as possible. But I mean, that's a hell of a lot of fencing they're going to be using.
Why aren't they using former industrial estates? There's enough of them dotted around. Industrial estates tend to be a little bit away from housing estates and things like that. Why don't they just buy up one of these old industrial estates? Or in Teesside, up in the northeast, there's loads of docklands that have been flattened, doing nothing. A lot of it's being derelict now. Why don't they just build something out there? Why don't just until they find out who these people are and what they're going to do with them? They need isolation. You can't just put people that you know nothing about and mix them in a population. Certainly, when that population is half or more than half. Yeah, less than half. Sorry, than they're moving in. It's just
Well, I mean, what concerns me as well is that, like I said earlier, when you're protecting your family, you will do whatever. And just speaking to someone yesterday, and I've said I'm quite prepared to go to prison at some point for demonstrating or whatever, in the near future. And my husband just rolled his eyes and went, "Yeah, of course," because he knows I'm serious. And my mum as well, she's like, "Oh, I'm probably going to end up in prison with protesting or causing trouble when it all starts happening." I'm like, "Mum, I'll be in the cell next year. Don't worry. I'm looking forward to a day without my phone, to be honest, But but what concerns me is that, I mean, having a meeting with Mark Jones, the Police and Crimes Commissioner for Lincoln, he said that it's the fear of crime that's the damaging bit. It's the fear of wondering what could happen, the fear of the unknown, which is the worst bit. And people's mental health on here at the moment is, through the floor, because everybody's so super stressed because you have no control, and nobody's saying, well, this is how we're going to protect you. This is how we're going to look after you.
Yeah, but was he trying to say the fear of crime is was it like a double-edged thing where he's saying, oh, well, it's the fear of crime that's going to cause, people to be distressed or whatever. Not in fact that there is going to be any crime. He didn't say, well, it's the actual crime that comes with this that's going to be the problem. It seemed to me that was a bit of a get out. He
did say that that's what they want to address, is the fear of crime, because he appreciates that is what the problem is at the moment.
Well, the only way they're going to address that is that they don't move on to the base. That's it. They put them somewhere in isolation. Me personally, I don't think any of these guys should be allowed out into the public at all. Wherever they set these camps up, and if I had my way, they'd be in tents like they are in Italy or Greece or France. They certainly wouldn't be put up in buildings like this. And unless they are genuine asylum seekers, where they can sort of give ID, give a pass, give a background and all this stuff, and they're being persecuted, then it takes it to a different level. But to have this sausage factory that's running over the English Channel at this very moment, and then just carte blanche, everyone gets treated the same. that is a huge risk. I mean, surely, you know, I mean, we've got very clever people in our government and our senior civil service, you know, sort of Whitehall and places like that, that make strategic decisions during wartime. Strategic decisions on when we've invaded a country, what happens, what the clear-up operation is going to be, and what the risks are with that. And that'll be anything from crime through to social issues. You're honestly telling me that these guys that are actually aiding and abetting within our government and establishment haven't got a clue how dangerous this is?
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, they've proven, haven't they, that, you know, people that they've let into the country previously have then been found out to be linked to certain groups or whatever. But I mean, we don't know who's coming here, and so in the numbers, obviously it's overwhelming. But what concerns me is that, you know, you will do anything to protect your family. And one of the guys I was talking to the other day, again, was, you know, I'm quite prepared to go to prison to protect my family. So, you know, people are that worried and that scared that, you know, what's going to happen? Are people going to be right? Okay, we're not going to stand for this, and then have. I mean, there's already talk about setting up a thing that people that are still here when the kids go to school, you know, walking your dog at school time when all the kids are walking to school, to make sure that there's plenty of people about. We shouldn't be having to do that, for Christ's sake, you know. And at what lengths will any parent or whatever go to protect their kids? And, you know, when you're talking about, I'm prepared to go to prison to protect my family, and it's the government that are putting us in this situation that we feel that we've got to, like, risk our jobs and our homes.
Sarah, do you know what I think you should do as a community is all the men right within your community should bugger off to another country to find safety somewhere, and leave all the women and children there amongst all them, because that's what they're telling us is happening with the shoe on the other foot. So I think all the men within your community should bugger off, get some rubber dinghies, and just find somewhere that tickles their fancy. That's exactly what's going on with the shoe on the other foot. These guys coming over here, you know, what do you think? They think we're all fucking stupid. They ain't leaving their loved ones behind. Probably half of them haven't got loved ones. You know, it's the ones that have probably want to get away from them, and thinking that they're going to have this all new dream life where they've been promised that, well, if there's enough of us there, we just take Britain over. You know, well, it's payback for how they treated us over history. And I honestly believe that's what it is, because I always remember one thing that my grandfather did say. I mean, he died, was it 1978? But he said, and I was young then, and I heard him talking to my mother, and he said one day, he said, and it ain't too far in the future, he said, that our chickens are going to come home to roost. And I always, you know, coming up as a teenager then myself, I asked my mum, I said, what did Granddad mean by chickens coming up? I mean, I'd never heard that term. What do you mean by that? And she avoided it until I was old enough to you know, to have that discussion. And she told me exactly what he meant. And she said, unfortunately, no, you're living through it. And I honestly do believe that, because I don't see these communities gelling or mixing with our communities at all. They don't want to. Not like Indian communities or some of the West Indian communities that I've seen in London, where they, you know, they do generally mix with you and you know, take part in society, as it were. This lot don't. It's a ghetto with them. It's and they don't want to have anything to do with us as a general rule.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just changing the subject slightly, Doghouse 103s, but just think how much money the Two-Faced government are making out of this. Now, with regards to like the hotels, and I mean, again, the figures are changing all the time, but I was doing a little bit of research the other week, and of how many people they said were staying in the hotels and how much money they reckon they're spending daily on hotels, it worked out that they were per head spending £175 a day. right? Now I'm like, well, hold on a minute. If they're sticking 4 to a room, how can they be charging that much? But there's a company called Belvedere Stays who are the ones that are managing that. So the Home Office aren't the ones that are saying, right, okay, let's get a hotel and let's pay the hotel. They're actually using Belvedere Stays to outsource that and for them to sort the hotels. Who owns Belvedere Stays and how much money are they making out of this? Because I'm sure they're not paying the hotels on Skegness Seafront £175 per day per person.
Exactly. It's like what they've done. The government outsourced to Serco to hunt down. We wonder why we got a housing crisis in this country, because Serco are taking up to-let properties, getting them on their books, and they're promising estate agents and private landlords not only will their rent be paid, but any damage, all their bills will be paid. It's up there. Let me get the thing up because no one will believe it.
Yeah, they did that at Needham House. They're trying to put 200, I believe that's families, and they did have people in it a couple of weeks ago, and then for some reason they moved them out again, but then they've not been told why. But it's a boutique hotel that people have weddings at. The weddings have been cancelled. People that have got weddings next year haven't had the deposits back because they're like, oh, well, we don't know if we'll be open again next year. We might be able to have your wedding. So they're not getting the deposits back because it's not actually been cancelled. But the hotel's been told that, this is a boutique hotel, so it's pretty nice inside and out, and they've been told that they will be covered when the asylum seekers move out, that everything will be restored back to normal and it won't cost them anything.
Well, I'm going to share a screen with you, Nicholas, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it, mate. You're very welcome to. Right.
There we go. Right. So this is Serco under a government contract, multi-million-pound contract here. Asylum accommodation and support services contract. We're looking for landlords, investors and agents with properties available in the Northwest, Midlands and East of England. All types of properties are required. Right, so if we take a scroll through this, prospective landlords, investors and agents, we want to work with you and consider all types of properties in the Northwest, Midlands and England. These include traditional HMOs, family property, former care home, residential and student accommodation. Right, let's look at the benefits, shall we? Long-term lease is available for 5 years with no void periods. Rent is paid in full, on time every month with no arrears. Full repair and maintenance lease, excluding latent and structural defects. Right, it gets better. Bills, utilities and council tax bills paid by Serco. Full HMO and property management, including monthly property periodic safety inspections, no fees. And we wonder why we've got rents going sky high, because once this gets involved and the demand goes up, rents go up, rents go sky high. We're blaming Putin, right, for everything going up at the moment. No, it's not. This is all self-inflicting. This is the self-harming that's going on. Now, Serco are saying to these landlords, oh, they'll pay the rent, they'll pay all the bills. No, it ain't them paying, it's us paying. So this is what's going on. People catch this on. If you can spread this.
Is that on the Serco website, is it? It's coming up a bit small, serco.co.uk or something?
I'll put the link in the private chat, and if Nicholas can put it in the chat, anyone can go and see it. Right, so hold up a second. I'll just do that. Copy the page. I'll stick it in the book because it probably won't let me put it in the chat.
Yeah, with regards to Serco, I mean, at Linton News, they were in there and had everything in place, ready to go. I mean, the joke of a company they'd actually ordered toddler bunk beds instead of adult bunk beds. When they arrived, they had to be sent back and the correct size, but they had everything in place. The beds were there, the sports equipment, all the facilities they needed when it was actually sort of withdrawn, but Serco were then able to claim 20 million in compensation for all the works they'd already carried out.
Wow, that's well, it don't surprise me, Sarah, to be honest. I mean, I looked into this earlier this year with the Serco thing, and I just thought, this if people knew this was going on, and I mean they've blatantly got it on their website. These guys ain't putting their hands in their pockets at all. These so-called asylum seekers or immigrants. We're not allowed to call them asylum seekers now. It's immigrants. Well, as far as I know, most immigrants do come with some sort of worth. But apart from hanging around high streets and schools, chasing up and down teenage girls or younger. No, this disgusts me. When I saw this, and I thought, well, no wonder fucking rents are going up, because they've got the demand. And I'll tell you what, they're doing well out of this. This is why a lot of estate agents and private landlords now are going to this, because they don't want to take the risk. They just look at this and think, oh, Christ, 5-year lease, that's 5 years of rent, all paid every month. The rent's paid, repairs, they're going to maintain it and repair it, and they're also going to pay their bills.
All the gas and electric and bloody council tax.
Yeah, I'll zoom in on that, because I know it's a bit small on that screen. I'm on the wrong screen there. That one. So if I do that and then scroll it up a bit. There you go. That's the deal, basically, what Serco are offering. Private and...
no fees. Oh, dear.
So why are now veterans getting this? Or the homeless? Why aren't they getting it? Not all homeless people, drug addicts and alcoholics or whatever, and have put themselves in that situation. Why isn't this help being offered to them as well?
Because they are British.
Exactly. Well, you've said it, Nicholas. Thank you very much. And as you know, some people will write that off. Oh, well, that's racist, isn't it? It's just, no, it's fact. It's actual fact. We in this country are, I don't know, I've got to be careful here. I just think we're our own worst enemy. We are allowing this. And I find that incredible. This was one of the things that actually got my third strike on YouTube, was released when I released this information back, was it November last year? And got a strike for it, and it was my third and final one. And that's the problem. You see, you can't talk about this. And that's the frustrating thing. It really is. It's in our face. It's all pushed in our face. You go to that website and you see this, and you just think, who are the idiots? I don't blame the immigrants. I blame us. Yep. I blame us. Fair and square on.
That's quite shocking to read, actually.
I think the link's in the chat now if you want to take it there. It's not something I've dreamed up. It's something that's actually gave me fucking nightmares, really. When I read it, I was like, no, this can't. This is just unreal. This
is perpetuating greed for landlords, isn't it? At the end
of course it is. This is why rents are going up, because you take something like a managed property by a letting agent or something like that. They'll talk to the landlords and they go, well, what we're thinking of doing, if next month or this month we'll increase the rents by 5%, 10%, whatever, we know that people ain't going to afford it. It's going to push them. So we'll have a lot of people then going, well, I can't afford the property I'm living in anymore. Or we'll serve them a Section 21 notice, get rid of them, and then just fill these places with a Serco contract where everything's paid for. And they'll pay that going rate. And this is what's happened. This is what's happened over the last year. People were wondering why. How can they justify rent going up to the prices that it has done? Well, here's your answer. It's here.
Well, in regards to that, my cousin, she's just been up for the weekend. She's living down in London, and she wants to move out of where she is. And she's been sort of searching for a place and found a 2-bedroom place for £1,600 a month.
Oh,
Jesus Christ!
Right.
Wow.
And so £1,600 a month for 2 bedrooms. So she'll be like, if she can get someone to share with her, £800 a month for sharing, not even her own place. And
gold plated or something.
Right. But between her finding it out and actually going to view, the price went up by £200 a month. Right. And then my aunt had gone with my cousin to actually view it, and it was like an open viewing. Everyone just turns up, and she was stood outside because she had the dog with her, and my cousin went in to have a look around, and she could hear the landlord talking to another couple talking about bids, and she was like,
Yeah,
what are they talking about? And like she said, go and like earhold in their conversation. They're talking about bids. And when they said, oh, like what's this about bids then? And basically it's like whoever will pay the highest rent will get the tenancy. Yeah, so it's an auction on a tenancy, not even bidding for, you know, it's not an auction to buy a house, it's for paying rent. So basically, if you've got money, then you can have that. But again, it's pricing people out. So, you know, it's hard enough as it is to get a place, but then you're being priced out of that.
Well, we had a situation not so long ago, I'd say sort of 80s and 90s, Sarah, where they've got to a stage that youngsters were priced out of getting a mortgage. But now we're living in an era where that not only are they priced out of getting a mortgage, they're priced out of the rental market now. So we've doubled. I'm trying to say in this era, and I find that disgraceful. No one's got a standing chance now. I'd hate to be someone trying to find your own feet now in this day and age, because everything, and I mean everything, is against you. That's the problem. It's disgusting. It really is. And that, you know, £1,600 for a 2-bedroom place just about sums it all up. But
I mean, they're changing the regulations, aren't they? So if you have got an HMO and you've got same normal non-asylum seekers, shall we say, in there, then you have to each person's got how do I put this? An amount of space that they have to be entitled to. So, you know, per square footage or meterage, then you can only have X amount of people in that property. And also you've got the normal gas and electric regulations and everything else that goes with an HMO. But if you're housing asylum seekers, you don't need to abide by that. So when you think, oh, hold on a minute, if I house non-asylum seekers, I've got to do all these safety checks. I've got to make sure the electric is up to par. I've got to make sure that the gas boiler is not leaking. I've got to make sure that, you know, I only put 6 people in that house because of the size of it. They're then told, well, do you know what? You don't have to put only 6 people because they're asylum seekers. So you can have 10 people in there and you don't have to have your gas and electric safety certificate. Now, what are landlords going to go for?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is what I'm saying. I mean, there's one interesting thing people can do. If you go to the government contracts website, which is a .gov.uk website, and look at past contract awards and just type in Serco space AASC. And look at them right now. Some of these contracts for the big cities and the major towns run into multi-million pound contracts, and there are hundreds, and not tens of them. There are hundreds of them dotted up and down this country, where that they're awarding a certain amount to Serco for certain areas, and that's all displayed on there. I mean, your average pleb won't be doing that, but I did when I first heard this story break. And which was contributed to my channel being taken down, as it were. This was the third and final thing. And I started exposing how much Serco were making out of these contracts. We listened to the £7 million a day figure for the hotels. If you go and look at this and add up, there's about 30, I think it was 36 contracts that are awarded to Serco. Just add up the total amounts per annum, what they are. It makes mincemeat of the £7 million a day, right? We're talking billions. Go and do it. Go and have a look on the government awarded contracts. Add up. I mean, some of them contracts, £500 million, just a single one. And just add up what that's all going to cost us as taxpayers. We think the £7 million a day figure is high. Where do you see what this one is? That's government contracts website, Serco and search AASC. And well, AASC is mentioned in that link. If you break the link down, it does say AASC. That's what you could go and do a search on that. Go and find out how much money is being Serco, how much money they're making out of this. That's without all the other contracts that Serco gets. It's one of the big companies no one's ever heard of or doesn't know what they do. Same as Capita. Capita's another one as well. Capita have similar contracts to Serco, not as big as the Serco contracts, but Capita have a piece of the pie in this as well. There's billions go into these private companies. People don't know half what's going on, how much this immigration crisis is costing us, let alone in terms of NHS, education, housing. It's everything behind the scenes like this where the big money's going. And you won't hear this in the media. The Daily Mail won't put this up. Daily Mirror won't put it up. Channel 4, ITV News won't put it.
This is why I've taken more to watching and interviewing on Talk TV and GB News.
GB News, yeah. They're probably. I mean, I do think they actually run a piece on this contract. I'm sure they did around about October, November last year. And but like I say, then GB News wasn't then what it is now. I mean, I think they're overtaking Sky News now, haven't they, in terms of viewership? Because more and more people... I wouldn't be surprised,
because you could actually speak the truth on there and have your say.
Yeah, which is quite rare. How long that'll last, I don't know. Before Ofcom screws them down, I see they've took that Mark Stein off. Ofcom overruled him and. And I thought, here we go, it's the slippery slope now. This is another media outlet that's got its feet under the table, and they'll just be silenced in the end. Unfortunately, you've got to do prodding. I come across this by accident because I was looking at government contracts when I thought, well, who's getting all this money? What private companies are involved in this? And I stumbled across this by mistake. By luck, not by mistake. It wasn't a mistake. I was seeking them out. But Serco kept coming up time and time again. And I was looking at all these contracts. And then I just Googled Serco and AASC. And it took me to their website. And it tells you all there to your face what they're doing. And I thought, wow, I've never heard of this. Everyone I spoke to had never heard of it. And it was the same reaction as you. Can we have the link to the website? And because you wouldn't believe it. I didn't. When I actually saw it, I didn't believe it. I thought, no, surely not.
I've been on the Serco website sort of quite early on because so we were informed that West Lindsey District Council had agreed the £300 million regeneration with Scampton Holdings Limited on Monday, the 6th of March. Tuesday, the 7th of March, someone tried to join our residents group, saying that they were a reporter, wanted to speak to residents about the proposed asylum centre. Now, what with the news that had dropped the day before, I thought, bless him, he's got confused with something. Right. He's mixed us up with somewhere else, and sort of just laughed and said, oh, what's your source, please? To get more information, and didn't think anything else of it. He didn't get back to me. And then the next day, seeing that Edward Lee was talking about it in Parliament, that was on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, Serco had adverts on Indeed and on their website for housing officers here.
Yeah, that's right. I saw them.
Oh, man. I
and
just
that,
have to take them down back in 2 seconds. Back in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
They had to take those adverts down very quickly.
Yeah, well, I was advised that if we see any adverts going up, then just to get as many people as possible to apply for the jobs, even if you don't want the job, just as many people, because it would be too hard for them to actually sort out the wheat from the chaff and, find the genuine people, that they will just sort of forget it, basically, like the jobs. But with regards to Serco, how many, that's it, Dodge the Badger. I wonder how many MPs have shares in these big companies. It's something that someone needs to sort of get on and start researching. It's who is making the money and who's getting the backhanders, because you can't tell me that out of all this money that's being exchanged, that someone, that's making decisions is not benefiting from this somewhere along the line.
Well, you should start looking from the top to bottom on that one, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows what I mean by that.
Mm. Yeah, well, this is why the government can't build new facilities for immigration, because they have no money, so they house them in places such as Scampton. Yeah. £300 handouts 3 times a year to benefit holders. I'm just catching up on some of the comments.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Of your money.
So if there's anybody that'd like to come up on the panel, please feel free. Let's get your perspective on this issue at the moment. It's been a good debate so far. It's been very good.
I think, I mean, I know I said last time the whole, like, just being said with how much it's costing, and 7 million a day. 7 million a day to you, to me, to the average person is a hell of a lot of money, but to a country, it's not as much as it actually seems. And when you compare that to how much they are paying Serco, and multi-millions, and we're spending billions a year on, looking after asylum seekers and processing them and educating them and everything else. My cousin, she works in London as she teaches English as a second language, but is also employed with like foreigners to teach them the way of life over here. Teaching people how to go and post a letter and stuff like that. So you haven't just got the money being spent on accommodation. It's she gets paid for teaching foreigners that have moved over here how to post a letter and how to just go about their daily life and how to integrate within the country and stuff like that. But when I'm sure I said last time, and I've said it quite a few times, 7 million a day seems a lot of money. But when you realise that as a country, the NHS spend like over 20, what figure was it? 27 million a day on diabetes. Then that sort of puts things a little bit more into perspective. We spend £10 billion. Well, the NHS spends £10 billion a year on diabetes. So, 7 million a day on housing asylum seekers, which is the reason they're saying that they want to use these big sites like Scampton and the barges and Wethersfield and Bexhill prison, because it's costing so much money. But, when you take a step back, 7 million, and this is all they say, why we don't want you to choose Scampton. Well, we're spending 7 million a day. We're spending 7 million a day. Every time you ask the Home Office a question, we're spending 7 million a day. Yeah, that's not actually a great deal of money in the grand scheme of things.
Well, I'll tell you what, when it comes to our government, certainly of recent times, first thing you got to do is follow the money. Serco and Capita, the two biggest quangos we have in this country, making billions of pounds, multiple billions of pounds. First thing you got to ask the question is, right, which of our politicians, senior civil servants and senior MPs have shares in that company? Well, here's an example of that. This story that we've just put up on the screen.
We've been talking about that.
Yeah, this is in today's paper. Fury over the PPE graveyard. Mountains of thousands of unused packs of aprons, masks are fly tipped near a New Forest nature reserve. Here it is. Here is the pictures of it. Now, the thing is, right, when you got people like Matt Hancock giving his pub land, the pub landlord of his local pub, PPE contracts like this. This is where the money's going. There's no doubt Matt Hancock got kickbacks out of this, and they were all at it. They were all spending our hard-earned taxpayers' money on stuff like this, which was useless. They knew it was useless.
Back up. The landlord of his local pub.
Yes. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I'll just work that up. Matt
Can you put the
Hancock.
link in again? Because I can't read any of that.
Landlords PPE contracts. That was reported in the national press as well.
From a distance, that looks like all the containers that they're going to use for housing them.
Yeah, no, that is piles and piles of packs of gloves, PPE wear, and masks just being flighted.
Not up to standard, or
just not required. And
so the hospitals right now couldn't be doing with those, and the nursing homes couldn't be doing with those. Instead, they're just going to throw them away.
Throw it away whilst people ain't looking. Unfortunately, they got caught out. Right, there we go. That's the PPE one.
Right, I'm going to add to the chat, everybody. Dino, can I welcome Dino? Very good friend, very nice.
Hello, Dino.
So here we go.
Hello, Dino.
Dino, and welcome.
Right, so if I can change that now.
Hello.
Right, you want the link? Hello, Dino.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm not putting my video on because then you'd all be able to see me stuffing my face with biscuits as well as hear me.
Right, that's the Daily Mail article there about the PPE. So I've just stuck in the chat. This one is a Guardian article, but there are multiple articles on it. I'll just put this one in the chat as well. And if I can, sorry, Nicholas, if I can just put this one on just to sort of back up what I was saying there about Matt Hancock and his pub landlord friend. Here it is. It's not me wearing a tinfoil hat.
Nah, not you, Mike.
Pressure on Hancock over pub landlord's COVID deal. Former Health Secretary defends his record to MPs, saying there was no contract between the firm and the Department of the NHS. Well, there was, it turns out. Former Health Secretary Matt Hancock was under pressure on Wednesday to set the record straight over £40 million of government COVID-related work won by his former pub landlord after he accused Labour of fabrication about the deal. Yeah, well...
When was that article published, if you don't mind me asking?
That was... Let's have a look. I think the Guardians to get the bottom, didn't they? Matt Hancock didn't... No. Oh, that's unusual. Oh, there we go. That was in 2021. But it's since been found. If you read... if you just Google it, just Hancock and his landlord friend. Yeah. Just like all the other lies he's spun. But yeah, that, you know, and he weren't the only one. There was other MPs as well dishing out these contracts willy-nilly via the government website. So I thought I'd use them as an example of how they use our money.
I will admit to not being really into politics and being quite naive on sort of the whole situation up until the 8th of March. And then I've had to learn a lot very quickly about a lot of things with regards to the government, the Home Office, asylum seekers and MOD property and everything else. But it's like...
No, it's a shock. It's a shock. I've been looking at this since 2014, Sarah, and I still haven't. It's like going down a massive rabbit hole, and I'm still finding things now that shock me.
I've started watching like Prime Minister's questions, and then like when they have the debates and bits and pieces and stuff, and it's embarrassing. You know, I always thought of like Trump as an embarrassment to America and stuff like that, but then I look at our government, and I'm looking at them in Parliament, like nitpicking and squabbling and backbiting and like, oh well, you said you were going to do this and you didn't. Sorry?
Do you not think that is all a show, a big show? And
well, I don't know, but if it is, pack it in because it's bloody embarrassing. I mean, I've likened it to kids. It was kids in the playground, isn't it?
You won't stop doing that.
you see, because it convinces people.
Dino, are you on your yacht?
Yeah.
Looks like you're in a
Well
yacht.
spotted, mate. Well spotted. Can I just say hello to Nick?
Good evening, Dino. Welcome.
Good evening, Nick. How you doing? Listen, what I have heard is the original numbers, what were flying in, which was by the end of, was it June or July 2000? People coming in. No, it went up to 3, and the latest I've heard is 5,000 now.
That's correct.
Right? Wow.
No
If
way.
that's the official figure. I wonder how many more there is then compared to the 5,000 figure.
Well, if you look, I mean, we put a story up, just the amount that's coming in over this weekend. And if you just look at the numbers, that's just the weekend. There was about 1,500. Sorry, no, it's 1,023 Saturday and Sunday. But that's not including what's going for the week. So what the Border Force have decided to do from last week, they're not going to report the numbers now. So that it's only viewing the fact that we've got people down at Dover that are actually counting them off as they come off the boats. That's the only way they're getting the figures now, because the Border Force are stopping releasing the figures.
The official figures, mate. The official figures. Right?
Well,
that's Dover. Then if you go a little bit further around the coast, now this is just one beach. My aunt lives not far from Hastings, and she said she goes to, is it Winchelsea?
Yeah, Winchelsea, yeah.
Winchelsea
and Dungeness
Beach.
they use as well, Dungeness.
And she goes, she'll drive past there, and she said, and you can see the boats, like, let's say landing on the beach.
Yeah.
Coming in still through boats and whatever.
Yeah, so
you know,
coming in
and things like
and
that,
they
flying in.
They just jump off the boats and then like run off into the town and disappear. So how many people have we like got coming in all over the south coast that we're not aware of?
Yeah. Because I mean,
what about the north coast and
Dungeness,
the east and the west? Because they're coming in from everywhere. Don't forget. Let's not concentrate on what the news and what.
No, I mean just for the boats that are coming in. Yeah,
it's all Dover and shit like that. It's not.
We got the lorries as well, Dino. They're still coming in on lorries.
Easy way to come in.
Yeah.
You know, what about the other places where they could come in? Don't forget, we are an island. You know, so why is everyone concentrating on Dover and things like that? Yes, it's happening, and quite heavy as well in that area. But maybe that is a big distraction compared to where else they're coming in from and where they're flying into. I said flying into because that is what I believe. They're flying them in. They're not just coming in on boats and things like that. And from elsewhere as well. So don't be distracted by this one area of the land, the island, what we live on, is where they're coming in. Because I think they're coming in from every fucking direction, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. There's much more arriving than they're telling us. We've known that. You've only got to look at your towns and cities for a start. And, you know, you'd be mocked for saying this, but we are flooded by them. And there's no doubt about it. Anyone that can't see it is either blind to the issue or is just ignorant to the issue. You know, you've only got to look around the types of characters hanging around the major town centres now in gangs, you know, appearing to keep themselves to themselves, but they're watching everything. They're watching everything that goes on.
I don't know if you know anything more than what happened in Nottingham last week, I think it was, or the week before.
Yeah.
Apparently, what I've heard is there were a bunch of immigrants, whatever, causing that.
Well, Like I say, Dino, nothing really surprises me. The amount of times that story's changed from even today, that the guy's name was false that they were dealing with before, and he had warrants out against him for arrests, for previous arrests. And court appearances that he didn't turn up to. The guy, they knew about the guy, but the trouble is, it's just the soft glove thing again, isn't it? We never catch these rapists, murderers, or whatever, because of their ethnicity, until it's too late and they've actually committed something. Don't forget that the counter-terrorism unit was actually surveying him on the night he committed their murders and used that van. That's why they were involved at the beginning. And then by 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon, the media were putting out, oh, well, counter-terrorism's now leaving it in the hands of the local police in Nottingham. Well, wait a minute. What were counter-terrorism doing there in the first place? This guy's got form. You don't have the bomb squad. And was it on your channel, Dino? I'll put them guys turning up in purple suits.
The Nilo guys, yeah.
This
Oh
new
yeah, I've got a channel. Yeah, I forgot.
Nilo, whatever they're calling themselves. It's like, and it's in a way they put it in our face, but it's always been the same thing with this country. It's all cloak and dagger. Everything that's done with a smile on their face. It's they let us have little bits and pieces of the news, knowing full well your average pleb will just go, oh look, they've got purple suits now. Oh yeah, and that's it. It's fun.
Though, somebody actually said to me, mate, they said if that was somebody native, they would nail them straight away. Straight away. But how come
they would have named them?
We're kind of in wonder of what has actually happened.
Because it goes against their bigger plan. We got so many coming in.
They'd nail them straight away.
Yeah.
It was... If you watch the news reports, then I mean, it's they put off saying who he was and where he was from for as long as possible, and I think it was Talk TV that were sort of basically telling everyone, because someone had shared on the action group that he was African or something, and I'm like, well, hold on a minute, the police haven't reported that yet. And she's like, no, on Talk TV they have. And yeah, Talk TV was the only channel that would broadcast that. I think everyone was too scared of going before the police had actually announced anything because the uproar that it would cause.
Well, it's in our face, and we've got, who's that other one? The one on TikTok, Mizzy, is it? The one who goes round just walking into people's houses and stuff. See, the thing is, they know they can do it, because they're going to get away with it because of the colour of their skin, and and they know it. They're blatant with it as well. No one's going to touch me. He's been to court, and what did he do the minute he was released from court? He went out and he done something else on social media. Was it jump into that train cab? I don't know if it was an underground train. No, it was an overground train going into a cab. Oh, I've took this train over. And it's like, if that was me do it, if it was anyone else do it, your feet wouldn't touch the fucking ground. You'll be hauled away, named and shamed, and for that offence, getting into a train cab, you'd probably be banged up straight away. This guy's still making TikTok videos today. What's that tell you?
One rule for us.
Yeah. So what? And these immigrants know the same thing. They're going to get away with it. They'll get away with it. There's some they'll make an example of, but it's very far and few between, because the police will treat them with kids' gloves. Whereas if it's you and I that was hanging around sniffing out schoolgirls, your feet wouldn't touch the ground. But these guys, they blatantly get away with it, and they know they can get away with it. This is the difference now. They're being coached by, Care for Calais and all these charities that are in France, British charities that are in France, telling them what they can do. You can do that. Well, I'm sure. I'm not saying that they can tell them that they can go after schoolgirls, but they're telling them. But basically, they can get this, they can get that, and everything's okay. It won't be a problem.
Okay, so the Home Office haven't met with the civilians here. They've only met with the MOD and the military families here. They had a meeting last week or no, a week before.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so still waiting for our meeting. They met with them twice now, I believe, but I don't think they've got the balls to come and actually have a meeting with the civilians, because they know that if it's a meeting with MOD, they're going to have to behave themselves in that meeting, because obviously their jobs are at risk.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, after the 2 times they turned up at Linton, I think that was in the first 6 weeks, they went twice, but the reception they got was like, I don't think they were expecting, and they weren't able to answer a lot of questions that they posed as well. But when they met with the military, they were saying about how the asylum seekers will get inductions. Okay, so it's inductions on the law. So basically, you're not allowed to rape people, and also a little bit about our culture and how to be polite and how to be a good neighbour.
Well, that worked then, didn't it?
I'll tell you what, Sarah. Right? I'll tell you what. If all this corporate speak that would be robust instructions, there'll be an induction and all this shit. Where's the fucking government's risk assessment and all this? If they want to talk corporate language, where's their risk assessment? I'd like to see that, to see if they have looked at all the risks of letting people.
Oh, they have, and this is why they're not putting those buildings on the runway. They're moving them more into the actual former camp. They're not putting it on the runway because the aviation fuel. So that's going to be a risk.
Oh, fuck.
There's no risk assessment whatsoever.
No. I mean, when I say risk
not
assessment,
for us. Not for us, no, for them.
Why are these fuckers, right? Sorry, Nick. How come they're flying in, no boats, no sea, nothing like that, flying in onto a military or an ex-military, as far as Scampton's is concerned, sorry.
Statement.
Why are they flying them into a military base?
It's a statement. It's a statement. No one can tell me, right, that anyone in a high-ranking civil service, certainly in Whitehall and within the Home Office, right, no one can tell me what's happening and what the risks are and what risks they're posing to the national security of this country. Not just us, but the national security of the country as a whole. Unfettered amount of people coming across that English Channel on fucking rubber dinghies with their no IDs, no history, no background checks. I'm sorry, no one can tell me that our central government doesn't know what risks come with that. Certainly from the countries that these people are from. You've only got to look at the profiles.
Sorry, mate. Did you see that video? I got sent a video from Deegan. His channel is known, Mr. Deegan. And this is Northern Ireland, or Ireland. And they're flying them in. And there weren't a single female who was brought in. They were all men. They were all men. And then you got this interviewer asking this.
Oh, he's put another pound on the Wi-Fi connection.
This boss quite trendy.
You froze for a minute, Dino. You'll have to say that again.
Dino, just rewind a bit because you froze for about 20 seconds. That's right, mate.
Right. There was a video sent to me, and I played it on my channel a few times. And this is in Ireland, right? Of all places, which is an island. And they've been flying them in. And this one particular program, what they did, it was all men, no women. You know,
was this at the base?
Men, women, children, the whole thing. But no, this was just men flying in, dressing up with bloody like what I'm wearing now, bloody, materialistic clothing and things like that. Never worn it before, probably never seen it before, just wearing it like a costume. you know, and this woman interviewed this guy and asked him certain questions and that, obviously, and she said to him, "Is this some kind of military operation?"
I remember that.
He went, "Yes, yes, 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 yes."
And
then
smiling,
she
yeah.
carried on with the conversation. I'd love that video to come up right now. Then you'd know what I'm talking about. But it's a very powerful video for me. That
If I had that video, I'd play it.
What is Irish? What is the Irish television? Is it Air TV? Not Air TV. RTE. RTE News.
Well, I mean, if you're going on the Home Office's own words, it was asked why it's only men being housed here, and it was mentioned because the same thing come up at Linton on Ouse as well, and it was mentioned that because it's only 10% of the people crossing are females or women and children, so they are classed as a minority, so then they are vulnerable and at risk, so they can't have 10% of the people, so they can't put 200 women here because they are a minority and at risk. But when you consider there's say argument's sake 700 people, adults living on this camp, so we'll split it down the middle and say that 350 of those are females. It's okay to have 350 females next to 2,000 male adults, but not 200 in 2,000 of asylum seekers.
Sarah, I'm sorry, but this was not there was no single female involved with this deportation, this importation. Not one single. It were all men. Why?
Were they going to a specific camp or something? Were they going to a specific camp or something? Because they won't house them.
Camp. Yeah, military.
Well, no, there wouldn't be any women because they don't house them in the same place because they are classed as vulnerable because they're the minority.
The refugees, so not every refugee is a male, is it? So it should be male, female, children. It should be the whole package.
Yeah, but they won't all put them in the same camp because they'll be outnumbered.
Yeah, but they can do it amongst our population. That's you know.
Yeah, it doesn't. As long as the female asylum seekers are outnumbered, that's okay. You know, they're safe as houses, but they're going to put them next to 350 women here.
Disgusting.
I mean, we've got lots of young families, and I mean, like, I have the grandkids over to stay and whatnot, but we've got elderly here as well who are also terrified, you know, and it's like they're saying, you know, like their families are trying to get them moved or, you know, making sure the house is secure.
I agree. The elderly, right, should be afraid because they've lived through this place and this country and its culture and heritage and what it's been about for so many years because they're elderly and they've lived through it. What about the younger people? What do they think? I mean, how are they thinking? I think they're thinking that this kind of thing has become normal today. And that's where they're getting in as well. And that's why I believe it's up to the younger generation to open their eyes and realise what's going on. You know, the elderly and all that, right, they're concerned and things like that, rightly so, and things like that. But coming towards your end of your lifespan and things like that, maybe they're not as bothered as they would have been if they were younger. But the younger ones today from a different generation aren't that bothered because they're born into something which they think is the norm. And then the next generation before this, after this one, it's going to be the complete norm.
I suppose,
and then after that, it's like, fucking hell, what are you talking about? It's what it's about, isn't it?
Is that you've got the elderly that just see that they've paid into the tax and national insurance system all their lives and they can't get a doctor's appointment, or they're living on, you know, £800 pension a month, and then these people are coming over and getting given so much.
Free.
It's harder for the younger generation to appreciate that because it's not their money.
Why is it? Because if people over here are like, you know, you're meant to work and pay into the system and things like that, and make sure you bloody work hard as well, and things like that, and you know, it's laborious, and make sure you get through all that, and hey, pay your taxes, and you know, get through, and we'll reward you with a pension afterwards. But these guys are coming in they're coming in for free. Don't cost them nothing to come in. And when they get here, everything they get is free. Near enough. When you've got people who've lived here all their lives, right, who've been struggling for so long, right? And at the end of it, this little pension they get is fuck all compared to the cost of living and things like that. And these guys are coming over, taking the piss, dressing up like they would never get clothing like that over there, and they're dressing up like this over here, trying to fit in and things like that, trying to look the part and getting everything for nothing, and complaining about things.
It's when they're smug about it that it like
absolutely about it. Yeah.
Well, this whole complaining outside like the Pimlico Hotel, and like, oh, we're going to sleep outside the hotel on the streets because we don't agree with sleeping 4 to a room that's got a warm bed, it's dry, it's safe, you've got hot water.
It's more than our.
Do not forget the weak Wi-Fi.
Apparently, with some of them, the Wi-Fi is not good enough.
Oh, that was the interview with Richard Tice. That was brilliant. That was.
Huh? I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, are they going to get Wi-Fi when they come here? I know that they get issued mobile phones because they they need to have a way to be able to contact their solicitors and their immigration people and caseworkers and stuff like that. But I mean, with regards to Wi-Fi, I mean, I'm not going to carry on paying my Wi-Fi if they're going to have Wi-Fi like the other side of the fence outside my front door. I shall just make sure I get the code for that and log into that one and use it.
But yeah, and actually complaining about what they're getting when they've already got something magnificent compared to what they've had before. I mean, what else do they want? I mean, what more do they want? I mean, they're getting more than what people who've been born and bred here, pedigree stuff, don't get.
I did say last time that 20 years ago, due to a marriage breakdown and a company folding, I was homeless for 5 months. Now, I had plenty of people that were like, oh, come and stay with me. And I'm like, no, because, you know, I'm not going to get any help from anywhere else if you're putting me up. So we went into like sheltered accommodation, and we were there for 5 months, and it was horrendous compared to what I was used to. It was damp. The front door, like your main front door from the street, was just like an internal door with a Yao lock on it. So anyone could have just sort of blown that down. I was still working, so I used to come home from work and be worried opening the front door as to whether my stuff was still going to be there. I was sharing a room with my son. There was someone stabbed outside the window. It was awful, but I was grateful. You know, I had a roof over my head. There was no way I was going to sit outside and protest that there wasn't carpets, or, you know, that there's silverfish on the floor because it was so damp. You know, I was grateful that I had a roof over my head. I had somewhere that I could wash in hot water and boil a kettle. You know, there's no way that I would have protested or, you know, stood my ground for having this, even though my family had paid into the system. I paid into the system, and I was working at the time, so I was still paying into the system. You know, I just couldn't afford with myself, after losing a business, to then be able to move into private rented accommodation at that time. We own our house now, you know, so it's a different kettle of fish. But, you know, there's no way that I was going to sort of bite the hand that feeds and show that I was really ungrateful for having a roof over my head.
Yeah, it's disgrace. Like I say, you know, most of this that we see in our mainstream media is just pushed in our faces. It really is. I mean, when I saw that, I heard that Richard Tice interview with them, I was just sickened by it. I was just like, you know, for God's sake, you're getting more than the homeless are here and our own veterans. And well, this is the thing, when you're coached, before you come over here, that you're going to get what you want. If you make a noise, just call them racist if they don't comply, because that's what it is, or you must be racist. And that's their get out card.
I hadn't heard much about Richard Tice before actually seeing that video, and I'm like, who is this guy? I love him because the whole sort of humour he put into it. He was like, oh dear, so the Wi-Fi is really bad. Oh, well, we'll see if we can, you know, help with that, because that's really awful. You haven't got Wi-Fi. And then when he sort of like approached the subject of, you know, who's paying for this? Oh, well, the government's paying for it. And where does that money come from? That I think the asylum seekers, sort of the penny dropped all of a second and was like, oh, right, okay, this guy's not actually on our side. And then I was on his, was he on GB News?
Yeah, it's GB News.
Yeah, on last Sunday morning, I rang up and was chatting with him on his show last week about this as well. And I was just like, yeah, who are you? I'm quite interested in you now. So I've been doing a bit of research, but no, awesome interview that was.
Voices out there, but you don't see it on Sky News or BBC News or anything like that. In actual fact, I've got the RTE website up here, and I think they've took the video off, Dino. It's gone. That one was shown on yours, and I know it was on here for a fact, because I sort of it's gone. It's been taken down. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a surprise, is it?
Yeah. Well, it's like BBC. The minute we invaded Ukraine, it wasn't long after that. A video that I showed on my channel. It was a BBC Newsnight documentary, about 25 minutes long, going on about the Azov child Nazi summer camps in Ukraine. This is before the attacks. This was about what was this? 2020. Sorry, no, it's 2019. The Newsnight thing out there. Well, now they've took that down. It's only by pure luck that the BBC News, Deutsche Welle, and France 24 documentaries I've recorded. I've got them down on but you won't find them on YouTube now. They've gone. Since Ukraine was invaded, they've took them off. And that's what they do. And it doesn't surprise me. I've gone to the RTE News one. I found it last time just by putting asylum seeker in their search on their YouTube channel, and now it's gone. There's stuff on there that comes up, but that particular interview with that reporter has gone. So I'll be interested to get a copy of that. Who was that on your channel that sent you that? It was Eamon. Was it Eamon?
I have still got it.
Eamon McCann.
Right, okay. I didn't want to name names, but Eamon did send me that. Big supporter of mine is Eamon, but yeah, he did, and I've still got it. So hopefully on my next live, well, it will come up.
Yeah,
and
good.
We'll play it again, and we'll show it again, and we'll show it again, and we'll show it again. until they bring it down on my channel. But
yeah,
yeah,
that it was just his reaction was just said it all, really, didn't it? He didn't have to say much apart from yes, and laughing.
what sticks in my mind, Mike, was when she asked, "Is this some kind of military operation?" Yes.
Why would she ask that though? That's the thing.
I wish I could put it up right now.
RTE is the equivalent of the BBC in Ireland. Why would a state broadcast journalist ask them that without having some sort of
Prompt.
Knowledge?
They were flying into a military base.
I mean, what gets me with that video itself was when watching it, he kept looking to his left or to his right.
Yes.
And it was as if he was being prompted in what he was saying as well.
His costume and everything.
Yeah.
Even before he said a word, I thought, just look at him.
And then he had that baseball cap with boy written on it, wasn't it? It was boy.
And all that. Don't forget, this is a refugee. So all of a sudden, he's dressed up in this New York type of American style stroke, English style fucking attire, and going, yes, and smiling and going, yes. Military operation.
Did he actually understand what he was being asked?
Well, no, I think he did. He spoke pretty good. I think they picked him because he was one of the best English speakers out of a lot of them. But no, it was just his body language. I think, she was asking him normal questions to start with, and then it got on to that where, are you military? There was a bit of nervousness with it. It was a bit of a nervous laugh, and it was yes, oh yes. And like Nicholas said, he's definitely getting some prompting from his right, our left, his right-hand side.
Straight away, Mike, after that question, anybody in that situation who's just come across, and whether they're dressed like that or not, would say, "Hey, what? Military up it? What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Went, yeah. That scared me, actually.
Just reading back on some of the comments, and Doghouse saying it's normal in the big cities now. It's a rural place. I think like what happened in Nottingham. Nowhere is sacred. Again, all it takes is 1 out of 2,000 to cause death. We have to look at Nottingham, one man, and it had to be a white van. Now we've said that as well, that out of 2,000 people, we're not just automatically saying that they're all bad, but it only takes 1 out of those to come onto here and cause devastation when we don't know who they are. And like I said, the worst thing that's happened on here was a shed window got broken by some kids throwing stones. So we're not used to it, but they're saying that the level of crime that we should be expected, if we lived in a city, we would expect that anyway. But we don't live in a city. We've chosen not to live in a city to make sure that we're safer. We live on a little estate who, we look after each other, and okay, we don't all know each other like it back in the days when everyone was military and everyone knew each other, but we have a Facebook group and we all take care of each other. But there's we don't expect to hear that 3 streets away someone got mugged, or the other side of town someone got raped, or something like you would do in the city. I'm not saying it's acceptable in the city, but that they're basically saying that because it does happen elsewhere, then we should expect that here, because you would expect that if you lived in a city.
Yeah, I know what he's saying. Myself, I'm from London, and we got out in time, really, because it's when things really started to get bad. I was out in Cyprus for 7 years, come back in 2008, and I saw a dramatic change in London. And my son had just not long been born. He was coming up a year old, and I just said, we're not living here. There's no way. It was, I mean, that 7 years, I might as well have been away 70 years because it was, I just didn't recognize the place. You know, London's always been a bit of a dodge pot in certain areas, but not like I was seeing. And so we moved as far west as we could, out to Somerset. And it was the best decision I made because I could never go back to London again. It's a shit pit. And that's what I call it now, the shit pit. And we wonder why people like Sadiq Khan keep getting in power there. Well, they've shipped enough people into London to ensure that happens. You know, because
we're right deep here with that, but you know, I'm too tired for that. But you know, we've got foreigners running our country now.
Denizens, yeah, I'll call them denizens.
No pedigree anymore, which tells you a lot, really.
Well, you've just mirrored what I said when I first come on here. That's the problem. You know, we got denizens in power. You look at the Lord Mayor, you look at our Prime Minister. They got no interest in this country at all. All Rishi Sunak's worried about is, you know, he's making sure he gets his green card for when his time's done. He'll piss off to the States with his multi-millionaire or billionaire misses, and they'll still carry on investing in Russia whilst they're telling us to have sanctions against them. He's put sanctions in against Russia. We're all suffering, not the Russians. We're suffering. It's causing us all our prices to go up. He couldn't care less about that. You know, and then you got this useless in Scotland as well, another party leader that's got no affiliations at all, another Pakistani that all they're worried about is their businesses back in Pakistan, just like Sadiq Khan. You know, I mean, people forget too much about when he was in the national press about flying back to Pakistan and bullying the villagers that are from the villages relatives are in. Right. Before, a lot of people were saying, you know, is this an Islamic State? I don't think it is quite yet, but we're getting there. I don't think it is.
No, I've got nothing against Islam or that race or anything like that.
Well, it's not a race, it's a religion.
I think we've always had wars as well, trying to fight Islam and Christianity and all that's gone on in the past, but we have never defeated that. We can't. It's like the old film Zulu. No chance.
Well, I think we're having a bit of a modern version of how Spain was invaded by Islam, and you know, all them years ago. Okay, it didn't go quite to plan, but I think it's in Islam's policy, or belief, or whatever you want to call it, or the Sharia, that they will dominate and they will take over. That's all Islam's done in its very short history. And let's face it, was it AD 600 that was invented? And all it's ever done is try to infiltrate and attack, rape and pillage. Even Muhammad. You know, his 9-year-old wife. It just goes against everything that's natural law and order. And they try to import that around everywhere they go. I mean, okay, yeah, we could, you know, we could look at that and go, oh, that's nasty. But we've done exactly the same around this planet. I hoped with better intentions, and it hasn't always played out that way. Our history ain't quite squeaky clean. But, you know, as my grandfather said, he says our chickens are coming home to roost. And that's made more sense to me today than it ever did back in the late 70s when I first heard him say that.
Yeah, but our history, you know, something's not been right and we've changed it. You know, we don't have, shouldn't have slaves anymore. You know, that was part of our history that we were known for.
Well, we abolished it, yeah. We were the first to abolish it, yeah. And our Royal Navy enforced it as well. You know, I'm wondering if the person that come up with it was the Royal Navy.
Back a long time, don't you?
Yeah, this is a long time
ago.
But we do have to remember. but we do have to remember that this country has caused some of the worst atrocities on this planet. It was this country that actually invented the concentration camp.
Not the people, right? The people were ordered to do it and instructed and things like that by the governments.
Exactly, yes.
Things like that. So what were the governments involved with in order to do that? There was no reason to do that in the first place.
Well, back then it was trade mainly, wasn't it?
That's why they used religion and things like that. To fight against each other, you know.
But look, we could slag ourselves off, we could slag Islam off, we could every country on this planet, right, has got skeletons in its cupboard. And you know, you can go all the way to the South American countries, the United States itself. The United States is the proud flag holder that it's caused more wars or been involved in more incursions on this planet than any other country. You know, if you start comparing, we demonize the Russians. How many wars have they caused? I can only think of a handful, and that would be one of them's Afghanistan, and that didn't go too well for them. Other than that, I'm struggling to find where Russia's actually invaded, apart from Chechnyan states.
They haven't. Like that. They've invaded no. Russia has invaded no one.
Yeah, but that's my point, is that we've got to put things in perspective. What our government and media have been telling us for since the Cold War in the 60s and the 70s is that Russia's the demons. I tell you something now, I don't think World War II would have gone quite to plan or wouldn't have finished as early as it did if the Russians didn't get involved. Okay, they're nasty bastards, but they got a despise of Nazis. They always have had a despise of Nazis. But let's look back at World War II, what we're being preached at now. The Ukrainians and the Polish, well, the Ukrainians more so, cooperated and acted on behalf of Germany more than any other nation. The Polish went to the extent that they allowed the concentration camps to be built there and complied in some sort of manner. So what we're looking at this moment that's playing out in Europe again is a little bit of repeat. And I think Putin's right in one thing, that there was a hell of a big Nazi regime in Ukraine. Now, I lived in Cyprus 7 years, in Limassol and in the west side of the island, all the way up to Paphos. There's a big Ukraine. There's Russians and Ukrainians there, and they tend to get on all right. But a lot of the Ukrainians were getting away from the regime there. And they, you know, you get in conversations, you have a drink with them, you ask, oh, what's it like in Ukraine? Oh, well, I've had to leave because of the Nazi sort of, it's like mafia, they were calling it. It's like the Nazi mafia. That's what they used to call them. And again, we're full of virtual signaling in this country, and you know, anything to go against the big bad monster, which is Russia, they will virtual signal against. The media will play it out, and the next minute, everyone's got a Ukrainian flag up. And
remember how long ago was it when before this recent business with Ukraine and Russia? Remember all the independent stuff what went on. And you can have your own country back and all that, because it was all Russia. Ukraine, parts of it,
that was a coup d'etat.
All of that.
That was when the wall came down, wasn't it, in 1989, 1990?
Well, no, we're talking about, you're talking about Ukraine, Dino, when the regime changed.
Right. Yeah. And it was all peaceful. It was all peaceful. Yeah, we've got a unity back and things like that.
It wasn't because the reason why that all come about was because in the east of Ukraine, where there's a lot of Russian blood people there and speaking people, the Ukrainians were, it was genocide that was going on. They were literally crucifying Russians. 12,000 Russians in a short space of time were literally crucified there. That coup d'etat happened and it was American-led. They made sure that Zelensky was placed in there. That president that was in there had to run away, and this was all because the Minsk agreement was never since 2014. Ukraine has never complied with the Minsk agreement, and that was drawn up with the Yanks in the background, and it was an agreement drawn up with Russia and Ukraine that genocide had to stop. They could not banned the Russian language, which was the native language that was being spoken out in the east and the southeast of the country, because that was happening. And, and it's still going on to this day. It's still going on to this day. So it's something that, people have known about. Everyone knows about the Azov unit. Everyone knows that they openly have Nazi tattoos. Even their badges on their uniforms have got the Nazi flashes on. That was ousted when Channel 4 News went in like idiots and started filming the Azov unit. And everyone's going, hold on a minute, isn't that Nazi insignia they got on their uniforms? So what Zelensky done, right, to try and quell that, he said, well, what we're going to do, we're going to absorb them in our National Guard.
He's an actor, by the way.
But they're still wearing them badges today. They're still wearing them today. So when, Putin's going on about the Nazi aspect of it, well, yeah, to a certain extent, he's 100% right. There is a big Nazi element in Ukraine. Ukraine in the Second World War supported the Nazi regimes in quite a big majority, because they were cooperating with the Nazis to a big extent, more so than what Poland was on their eastern borders, as it were. I even classify France to a certain extent, being, apart from their resistance, their underground resistance regime, being complicit with the Nazis once them towns and cities got invaded. They were complicit under the German rule as well. Not everyone got a submachine gun and went underground and like hello and all that in secret cafes going around. Well, how do we do
that? Like, as well, I reckon a lot of
good morning
is also part of.
Do you know where else were complicit? Spain.
Yeah.
Spain as well, because Spain opened up a lot of its ports to support the submarine bases for the Germans. Italy, we could look back in history and we'd just go, this is the elephant in the room. No one ever talks about, well, which countries were actually assisting the Nazis during World War II? Who were the biggest players in it? And it's more than you think. I just look at the hypocrisy of it, and here we are, literally people flying blue and yellow flags in their fucking front gardens. They haven't got a clue. They have not got a clue what it means. They'd rather fly that than our own flag, because because in this country, to fly our own flag is racist. You don't get that in Scotland. You don't get it in Wales. You certainly don't get it in Ireland.
Let's all join in with the same thing. Same with the fucking rainbow flag and all that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, well, look at that. That was put up with the White House in between two American flags, the dominant flag in the middle, and it's just like, and here you can't get away. You go to Marks and Spencer's, right, to get your sausage and mash ready meal. It's everywhere. Your supermarkets, the schools, everywhere. Everywhere is playing this. Your town centres have got that toxic flag up. That's what I call it, because what they've done, they've took a symbol of peace and turned it into a toxic. Well, that's another subject. We're going way off. We're not going way off.
That's for tomorrow night.
Yeah, I've actually got to go in a minute because
I can go on all night. I know.
I could do. Yeah, I could.
Well, I'm going to shut this down. It's 20 past 12. We've been going 3 hours, 20 minutes.
It's just nice to join you, Nick, actually.
It's good to have you here, mate.
Yeah, it's been great having you on. It's nice to meet you, Sarah.
Yeah, Andrew.
I wish you all the best with what's going on down there. And I'm shocked what they're what they're putting people through and communities through without any thought at all. The only thoughts that's going on is with these lovely guests that we're getting. That seems to be their 100% focus is in their welfare. And that's another word that corporates like to ban around now is well-being. Well, I can't see them looking after your well-being or anyone else within that community because it's all focused on these people they know fuck all about. Well, deep down, I know they know what their background is and they know what they're doing. But, in retrospect, these are people that are coming here with no IDs, no accountability of their life, of what they're going through. They've destroyed it themselves. Again, I think we got to fight them, you've got to use their own tools. Well, if they come up and they're saying they've done background checks in a couple of days, Well, that's bollocks for a start. Why does it take me to get an MOD check, 6 weeks to 2 months? Why does it take a police check at least a month to get a police check in this country? How can they check people that they don't know within a couple of days? Doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense.
Right.
So, yeah.
I'll bid you good night, Nick. Thanks very much indeed. Really,
You're very welcome.
Cheers, Dino.
I've just got one question. That's all. Okay. What do we do about it?
I was just going to say, use their own tools. Use their tools against them. You've got to start asking. Right? They come out with all these. We're doing background checks. Yes, we know what we're doing. I mean, you've got to say,
Section A from that question. How do we do?
Well, it's easy. Lobby it. You just say, right, where's the risk assessment? You've done a risk assessment on them. What's the risk assessment as us as a community? What profound impact is this going to have on the 700 people that live on that or around that base? You've got to start demanding that. Right, we want to see your risk assessment. Have you done one? Because that's what they're forcing everyone else to do.
Yeah, it's funny how you can put a freedom of information request in, but you don't always get the answer, because they'll say, oh no, we can't divulge that at the moment because that's involved in XYZ.
It's protecting them. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Can you
say much love?
Dino, you got the question as well before you go.
Go on.
You've got to answer.
No, you answer the question.
Ask it.
What do we do? Yeah, what do we do about it?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question.
Oh, glad you're honest. That's what I like about you,
I mean, rather than just talk about it, I mean, we're in no power. We're in no, we've not got any clout. All we do is talk about it and things like that, which is fair enough. That's something we're doing about it. But, when it comes to, the actual power of actually making something happen, I mean, I don't think we've got it.
This is a frustrating thing. I've got no place. I want to stand in front of Suella Braverman and ask her these questions, but she won't send anyone here to have a meeting. And it's so frustrating, because I just want to say to her, how are you going to do this? Why haven't you done that? And the figures that they keep on about, how many people have come across, how much they're spending every day. I want to know, how many people have you processed? Because I've heard it's 13% since 2018.
That many people who would agree with what we're saying tonight, things like that. We're talking millions, not thousands. There are millions of people who kind of agree and, realise and kind of know, not the actual truth, because we don't know the actual truth, but we get a general idea of what's going on, for God's sake. Anyone with intelligence and things like that. What do we do about it? I don't know. I've asked other people that, and their answer is, let's just bring down the Houses of Parliament, and let's just, that won't work. That won't work.
No, don't bring down the House of the Parliament. If we can turf them out, we can put the asylum seekers in there.
Exactly. That's the sort of thing, you've got to do. And, sometimes I do think, they need dragging out there on a Wednesday before they go in for that, because that's the day when they all turn up, or most of them, for questions.
Then who's going to make the new Parliament? Who's going to create the new idea, the new world, and things like that? It's going to take an awful lot of time. At least we're talking about it now. So passing knowledge on and etc. and things like that. So I don't know. It's down to everybody.
Look, I mean, okay,
it's not a case of breaking through a door and stopping things.
It's not that simple.
People out and things like that. Even if you did that, where'd you start from there?
that's a bit overkill, isn't it? Look, all I say is the people that are causing it, or the departments that are causing it, you've got to use their tools against them. And it's literally getting down to their paperwork and their assessments and stuff like that, and saying, well, hold up a minute, you've considered all the risks and the benefits and the prospects of having these guys in. You're looking after their well-being and welfare. What about us? What about the people, the indigenous people that live here and have lived here all our lives? What impact is going to have? What risk assessments have you done? You've got to put them on the spot, because the only way they will take you seriously is when you start talking about legal aspects of things. They're ticking all the boxes. They're dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Ahead there.
Yeah,
well.
but
you've got to take a generation ahead, mate.
Well, we said this before. I mean, I said this, this was all meticulously planned, certainly on a European scale, back in 1938 from the 1922 Frankfurt School. Anyone Google that, you can have a look, have a read yourself. It's very interesting, and it will explain probably 90% of what's going on today if you just research that. It's a brief bit of European history, but it has had a direct impact on this country and many others as well. And I do believe that's what we've seen played out. All them points that they brought up, all the achievements that they're wanting to achieve have been done. And that's why we're in this mess that we're in now, because they want to bring down the West. And they've done it. They've brought this country down to its knees. I've never known, I mean, things were bad in the 70s in this country, but they weren't this bad. They've broke down, through the power of social media, as well. They're breaking down society, and that's a scary aspect, because that means each for their own. That's a point that we don't want to get to, each to their own, or we're just looking after ourselves.
And they're bringing an absolute brand new society into life, which is, I'm not going to it really. It's too late. But the rainbow thing, and it's going to become a complete new society where the minority will become, not just, the white man, if you like. That'll be one minority coming up, but also the gender as well.
I don't call it the gender thing. I'll just call it demonic.
A completely new world. What's coming up?
That anything associated with that flag is demonic, and that's it. And I'm not, me, I'm not really
the future. That is becoming the future.
Yeah, because once you start involving children, love is love, and all this shit, and that basically means any age you do. When you've got men dressed up in drag gear and stuff like that going into libraries and school. That's a big red line for me. That's a big red flag, and I've got to look at that community as a whole. Anyone supporting that whatever colours they're putting. Look, I've said, they can put what colours they want on that rainbow, right? Eventually, if you mix too many colours together, it ends up black. It ends up dark, and that will be a full representation. That movement might as well have a black flag. And it will sum it all up to me. It's dark, it's demonic.
Well, it might turn into that soon, mate. But that's what's becoming. But this is the future. All that.
Well, don't we know it?
Gender thing and all that, and whether it's part of a depopulation agenda.
The good news is, Dino, that this isn't the first time in history it's happened. The Greeks had it, the Italians had it. A lot of countries have had this, and it ends up with the children, and that's when it all fails. That's when it goes to bit. And what is it? Pride before the fall. And I believe that's what's happening. Pride before you fall. So that's the good news. That's the only bit of hope I get out of this. It will eat itself. You've already got lesbians and gays lesbians and trans going against each other, cis and TERF or whatever. They're all now infighting. Eventually, it will it will self-destruct.
Even heard a story today about nuns. Even nuns were involved in all that business. How ridiculous is that? Which means religions got involved with it as well. So anyway, that's far too deep, and I think Nick wants to end this live. It can get deeper and deeper. Me and Mike can go on all fucking night. That's for sure.
Oh, and I've heard you.
But
Yeah.
listen, guys, thanks very much. Nick, appreciate it. Hope to see you
You're
on the
very
next
welcome,
live.
mate. Thank
Yeah,
you all
thanks.
for coming
Come
on.
in and have a chat.
Thanks those in the chat as well. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
No
take care.
worries.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you,
you too.
You're Dave now.
too. Right.
just hang on, you.
Send it
Or
to
Dave.
Yeah,
Dave.
I think Nick did that. It's a running joke from last time because I said my
That was-
nickname's Trevor.
Well, Sarah, that was the
All right,
quickest
Trev.
transition I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Right.
guys, just hang on. When I end this, I'll have a quick word with you before you all run off.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
going to end the live first. So thank you, everybody, for coming in. Much appreciated. I hope you enjoyed it. And we will speak to you all again very soon. And a very good night to you all. Goodbye. Right.